Completing JumpNet connection. Nodes 1 through 12 are currently operating at acceptable bit rates. Quality adjustment has not caused any issues. Transceiver operating temperature is within normal parameters. The upgrade should do an excellent job of increasing quality. Looks like we are clear to proceed. Green across the board. Greetings, wingmates. I hope that you are well, in whatever temporal situation you may find yourself in. Quite a few entries within the communications console already. Welcome, welcome, wingmates. I know it's been quite a bit of time since we've last been here, but the business has taken me places outside of the JumpNet communication range, and I've been doing a number of very hard burns with the wishful thinking. But wingmates, I am back within the tank, and better than ever. And I've missed you too, wingmates. I have missed you too. It's been a little bit of time, let me say that. And it is nice to be back in my mind space and communicating with you. Always good signals to see within my neural link. Alright, wingmates. So, today I would like to do something that I've wanted to do for quite a bit of time, which is taking a look at science fiction starship designs and unleashing my criticisms upon them. Alright, well, before I do that, how about I welcome everyone back? Let's see, who is here today? Let's see here. Shady, Lion Chops, Amaro, Birdmoss, Kimmy Spice, Attenborough, Melchior. Let's see here. And Koopa. Welcome to the convoy. Oh my, it's been quite some time since I've stated those words. Oh, thank you, thank you. Well, so I think what I will be doing today is I have asked on Twitter for some suggestions of vessels to take a look at. And I will be this will be a bit of a scuffed stream, as they call it, and I will be utilizing Krita in order to to analyze the vessels and give my thoughts onto what I think of their hull designs, on their deck layouts, on their arrangement of propulsive implements, and other such features. We shall see how that goes. All right. And I will say this, at some point during the stream, I will ask for user input if they have other images that you would like to see. As I likely will have more than enough images. This will likely be a multi-part operation that we will take on. But hopefully, we will be able to get quite a number of vessels done today. Alright, wingmates. So, allow me to transition to the simulation room, where I will attempt to capture Krita on my simulated hardware. 1 second, please, wingmates. Let's go. I hope that new transitional stinger is up to your standards. I will likely be improving it as resources become available. Alright, wingmates. So, allow me to capture Krita, and we can begin with our operation. Let's see here. Alright, excellent. So, taking a look at my store of images, what shall be our first design for analysis? Let's see here. Okay. I think that I will do one of my own personal peeves here. Gorian, welcome to the convoy. It is great to see you here. How are you doing? How is everyone doing today? Let's see. Apologies, I am a little bit flustered as I have been scrambling to prepare this, as my duties burning with the wishful thinking have taken a bit of my mental capacity. But I appreciate everything that you have sent in, wingmates, so thank you very much for that. Alright, let's see here. Okay. So I would actually like to do one of the, I suppose, classic designs first, a Star Destroyer. Simply because that is neutral ground in some sense. A Star Destroyer from the Star Wars franchise. Let's see here. 1 second, please, wingmates. Let me find you a good image of that. Oh, goodness, no. What is that doing? There we go. Let's see here. Ah, Bunzel! Welcome to the convoy! Good to see you here. And I'm glad that you are doing well, wingmates. That is excellent. Ah, Gorian, I see you got a nap. That is excellent. Naps are sacred. But you definitely need your sleep. Please, wingmates, if you require some sleep, some food, some downtime, do so at your leisure. I will always be back another time, and while your health will leave you and never come back. So focus on that, wingmates. Lion Chops, we are going to be taking a look at starships and not perhaps rating them, but I will be applying what I think is, I suppose, an issue with their design in terms of, realism isn't the correct word. I suppose practicality in terms of my understanding of how a vessel should operate, or should be constructed. So let's take a look here. Let's find a decent image of a Star Destroyer, which for whatever reason I did not have available on my desktop here. Let's see here. There's a classic image. It's surprisingly difficult to find a 3 view, which would be the best for this. Well, let's grab this one here. Okay, here we go. And I will begin the Krita capture. Yes, we can. You can of course send a link in. I do have quite a number that I've taken from Twitter that other wingmates have submitted, so I will likely be going through those first. But this will likely be an ongoing series of transmissions, so please do not worry. I think we will get to it eventually. All right, Rita, if you will behave as you are often not willing to do. Let's see here. Da-da-da-da-da. Come on, Krita. Come on. You can send it through a DM, or you could paste it here, and I will save it for a future reference. Let's see here. Awaken. There we go. All right, wingmates. Can you see Krita right now? Ah, Callie, welcome to the convoy. And yes, my tank is actually horizontal within my vessel, and I in fact may draw it. Oh, wonderful, wonderful wingmates. Okay, so, now that I'm getting something of my sanity here, allow me to engage in some simulated hydration before I begin. 1 second, please. Alright, here we go. So, wingmates, I have in my time looking at early 21st century Terran science fiction media, I have noticed many things that disturb me. And to me, the primary thing that disturbs me is that the designs of the vessels are highly impractical, at least with the sort of conventional technologies available to someone within the 5th millennium. Alright, let's take a look here. Let's see. Oh, no, corpse was not lying at all, Callie. I definitely lie flat, as otherwise my organs would attempt to leave my body through my lower orifice, as opposed to being supported by the flesh within my chest cavity. I suppose the flesh that is atop my rib cage. Let's see here. Yes, Kokabungus, welcome to the convoy. I do lie flat. So let me put away the Star Destroyer here and pull out a drawing utensil and draw here. So let's see here. So the layout of almost any vessel that you want to be on, simply because it is fail-safe, is one. Let's draw a conventional science fiction rocket here, as to the vision of the 19th or 18th century Terran. You will almost always want your decks to be arranged like this, simply because you will be able to stand when the vessel is propelling itself, Actually, why did I even draw that? No. In a vacuum, typically the exhaust cone of any propellant would look something like this. Let's see here. The spacer cam is pointing downward, but of course, the camera isn't really so much a camera as it is simply a representation of how I am within my physical space. But if you wish to see it in that way, then consider it as such. Dirk39, welcome to the convoy. The shipment of JO crystals. The joint operations crystals are indeed safe, although I believe I have never delivered any such historical artifacts. Most of those were consumed during the post-atomic wars, of course. Mao, welcome to the convoy. Good to see you here. And Ray, welcome to the convoy too. It is also good to see you. So, in essence, the idea is that when you are standing on a planet, due to the force of gravity, you will be pulled essentially to the center of the object here. Let's see, what is the formula? Oh my goodness, it's been quite some time since I've looked at the formula. So force of gravity is equal to mass. No. Is it mass 1, mass 2, gravitational? Nah, blah, blah, blah. But either way, in essence, you are attempting to accommodate what you would experience normally on a planet when you're looking at a vessel. So for example, here we have thrust that is pushing out here, making our craft be propelled vertically. Now what this means is that if you think of a floor and a ball, now let's pretend this ball here is the thing that you are transporting. And right now they are in zero gravity, so they're simply floating here. Now start making this floor move up as if we're propelled by a rocket engine of some sort. That means the floor will eventually end up here. It is traveling towards the ball, and that acceleration is exactly what creates the apparent feeling of gravity. It's a force, because this ball will be pushed up by this floor with the same force that it is pushing itself away, utilizing thrust. Let's see here. Everyone knows that the Earth is shaped like an onigiri. If the planet was round, we'd just be spun off into space. Well, Mao, you are quite correct that there is some sort of effect of the centripetal force of a rotating body. So, for example, here we have the force of gravity pulling us down, but also because the rotating body does have is essentially almost flinging you off. There is something that must be counteracted. So, if we were to, for example, spin Earth fast enough, well, one, the crust would likely shatter and begin breaking off into pieces and splitting apart like a fracturing record disc if you spun it too fast, like this. Kaploom! Just exploding. Simply because the material would not be able to handle it. Or not perhaps a record, but a mass reaction wheel that is spun too fast. Mighty Germ, welcome to the convoy. Yes, acceleration, not speed, exactly. It is all about force. So, when you accelerate, let's see here. Oh goodness, it's been quite some time since I've done this. So, let's just go with that, let's see, position is equal, no. So, position of something is equal to the acceleration times the time squared plus, this is a bit incorrect, but plus velocity times time plus position. So we have a multivariable equation here. We have the final position that we have in our plot, which is acceleration will, of course, be calculus wingmates. It's been some time since I've done this. Oh my goodness, wingmates. All right, so I already look like a madman here, but the point is, wingmates, that this is generally how you want a vessel laid out. You want decks stacked horizontally, in order to make sure that the acceleration is basically being treated as gravity. Now imagine if you are accelerating very, very hard. So a typical acceleration on a Terra-like world would be 1 gravity, or 1 g. Now, most people will start having trouble if the actual acceleration is anything beyond this. Let's see here. And you can count on you are from space, so you would know. Yes, thank you, Kimmy Spice. Thank you for helping Callie here. Yes, decks perpendicular to the thrust axis. And by thrust axis, it is this dotted line right here. As you can see, that is our thrust axis in line with our thrust direction, and the decks are perpendicular, which is to say they have a 90-degree angle here. So, at around 3 gravities, most human beings, especially those who are untrained, will be incredibly uncomfortable, especially standing up or even sitting horizontally on a deck. Here we have a patient figure with their hands on their knees and just sitting on a chair right here. This is already becoming incredibly uncomfortable. So, in essence, let me find a new layer here. What you want to do when you have a flat deck is you, generally speaking, want to have someone lying when the accelerations are essentially greater than 3 gravities or so. This essentially is because, let's draw our little human being here. Here's our thighs, here's our calves, here's our feet, here's our shoulders, arms, etc., and here's our head. When you are standing, here's our little human being. Let's find, wingmates, where is your heart located here on this human being? Ah, Dippy, welcome to the convoy. Let's see here. We have the heart located here. Now, the heart, unfortunately, is forced to pump blood that goes all the way from one ventricle, goes to through its various arteries across the body, also goes through lungs. So through one ventricle, it goes to the lungs, then it comes back and gets repumped back into the arteries, goes all over the body, and inevitably has to return. Ah, Tyler, welcome to the convoy. Yes, you are quite right that the kokoro would be a bit further to the right, but I am simply doing this for expediency's sake. Let's see here, let's get some blue. And then you have blood that must be returned. Now, wingmates, what do you see that is wrong with this picture? Look at all of this distance. All of this distance that must be traveled by the blood, both up or down, and then up. Now, the down part isn't an issue. It's the up problem that is the issue. Yes, these legs, this individual skipped leg day, and they don't have a head. But we'll put a little head on them. There we go. We have a happy little astronaut. Actually, now they are very unhappy because we are going past 3 gravities. So now imagine that we were to take a quanta of blood. You know, one gram of blood. This needs to travel up and down. Now, the energy required, the potential energy of something traveling a certain height, let's just say height h, is mgh. And in this case, this is essentially the force of gravity. Now, this is only applicable in Earth gravity, but we can essentially extrapolate here. So the potential energy that we would be required to put in to getting a quanta of blood all the way up from the bottom of this human being would be the mass of blood with the, I suppose, acceleration here and the distance that it is required to travel. Hello, Sardrina. Welcome to the convoy. Green in the face, yes. We are, I suppose we're not critiquing starships yet. I am simply giving my rationale for why I do not like horizontal decks. I much prefer vertically stacked decks, wingmates. I apologize. I needed to let that out. Please, I am so sorry for blowing out your eardrums. So, let's take a look here. This is the biggest factor right here. The moment we start multiplying this by anywhere from 2, 3, up to 10, your potential energy is going to grow geometrically. Excuse me, arithmetically in this case, I think, because geometrically would imply squaring. So this is the biggest problem. Your heart simply does not have the power output in its muscles to pump the blood. Now, what you could do is, of course, take your heart with all of its ventricles and attach small turbo pumps to it. So we have, for example, an inlet turbo pump here with something like a, not an axial flow, but a centrifugal flow turbine, essentially a squirrel cage, a turbocharged heart, wingmates, is what you would require. And perhaps you would also want it on the exhalation side too. Essentially, you would need small turbo pumps located implanted in your heart. And at that point, you might as well throw the entire heart out and go with an entire artificial turbo pump system for your heart if you are going to be pushing blood up through your organs. Now, some spacers actually do this. They do replace a lot of their organs with mechanical augmentations. However, I do prefer personally to keep my own heart, as there is something a little bit comforting about hearing, instead of a whir within your chest, the thump, the thump, the thump of your body. Let's see. So would a ship like Boba Fett's Starship be more appropriate in reality? I believe, let's see, so Boba Fett's Starship, if we take a look at it, the Slave 1 is shaped something like this when looking at it from the side. And oddly enough, the cockpit, so here's the silly thing about the Slave 1. It has its rotating cockpit here, and the pilot is not, actually the pilot is arranged correctly. No, the pilot is arranged. So here's the odd thing. The pilot of the Slave 1 actually sits like this. They sit in a conventional 21st century warplane fighters arrangement. So as you can see, while they are lying horizontal, due to the way that the cockpit is arranged, their legs are up. And this has the same issue of having more height. And even if you had a leg support here, you would very quickly lose blood supply. So in essence, we are trying to minimize the height aspect of pumping blood. Let's see here, wingmates. So essentially, we need to think about what is happening to your internal organs when you are accelerating, wingmates. So let's imagine we have a chest cavity, and I know that my anatomy is failing here even further. Oh my goodness, let me get a appropriate lung color. So here we have a lung, here we have the heart. Because it is full of fun things, we're going to make the stomach, and we're going to make our many meters of intestine. Yes, the problem is distance and height, in essence. And yes, let's see, Angela's motorcycle seat in space. Makes sense then. Spike and Angela's motorcycle seating. In some sense, it may. So yes, this is what a human being looks like, wingmates. Here we have the brain, and here we have the limbs, and that's it. That's a human being. Okay, this is why yes, a gimbaled crash chair would be good. As it would. So gimbaling is another topic we can discuss. The green snake inside all of us. No, little S, what are you doing? Okay, so wingmates. Now imagine you could either have your posterior orifice down here be the point through which all of your organs are being pressed down by gravity, as in they are being pulled out of your very intimate orifice here, or you could instead be lying sideways and have the force of your organs not suspended from your inner tissues, but actually distributed upon your own internal cavity wall. While this may cause damage, and this is exactly why, wingmates, I have installed a artificial support membrane within my body. This is one of the few augmentations that I have, where I have several sets of membranes that have been both retrovirally and mechanically added in order to keep my organs from completely being impaled upon my own rib cage and upon my own spine right here. Now, lying down is great and all, but you also have this issue right here. Your lungs, wingmates, your lungs. They are empty voids. Now imagine if you take a balloon and you begin compressing all parts of it equally. So under acceleration, say for example 10 gravities, all aspects of the balloon will be pulled down. Not just the bottom of it. All parts of the bubble that forms a balloon is going to be pulled down. Now as you can see, imagine if you have some air here. We will present this gas with these polka dots, because that is, I suppose, what a gas is. It is particles rapidly bouncing around and hitting each other. And the energy with which they bounce around represents the energy within, and that is the temperature of the gas for all intents and purposes. There are some exoskeletons that replace its heat entirely with an exoskeleton. Your thoughts? Ringo, I think that is also a very appropriate way, especially for lower grav acceleration vessels. Having an exoskeleton is especially good if you want to save mass for something like a drop craft. And where a pilot should, and especially for craft where you don't have atmospheric pressure inside. Some local defense fighter craft which is the atypical form of planetary defense, do use nothing but exoskeletal armor, which doubles as the escape pod for the craft. You are huge! That means you have huge guts! Rip and tear! Yes, rip and tear until the job is done. Okay, let's see here. So as you can see, because your lungs are not a monolithic entity, this is not something from something like Gary's mod, where if you use the gravity gun to pick up, see, here's the gravity gun beam, to pick up the lung, it's not going to flex. It's a rigid entity, but in reality, you just have balloons. Now, gas will compress when the heavy weight of the upper wall simply compresses the gas into such a state as this right here. As you can see, you have lost volume, and you are not going to be able to take in nearly as much volume of gas, and you will need much more pressure to ram the gas in. So we will end up having to have an air pump to force our respiratory gas into our lungs, which is another sort of painful thing. And as a result, when you increase pressure here too much, you may have an embolism, where you have too much air. You may have gases enter your bloodstream and cause essentially a stroke. So that is also not good. So what we can do instead, wingmates, is we can take the wonderful goo that I breathe, and we can fill... Oh, no, that's the wrong color. We can fill our lungs with a fluid. Now, fluids, unlike gases, are incompressible. And yes, liquid breathing, Ringo, is entirely supposed to compensate for it. So while we do have the force of our acceleration pulling up the top membrane of our fragile organs, we also have a counterbalancing force, because in a fluid, essentially, the more pressure you apply to it, that force is going to be evenly distributed in all parts of the fluid-filled body. So as you can see, the more pressure you apply to the lung, the more the bounce will be here. So what this also implies is that you also want a fluid-filled environment on the outside, so that eventually all of this pressure in a tank is being directed to essentially to the tank walls. And I'm having a bit of trouble drawing the arrows here, but as you can see, the pressure is being distributed. Now the tank is the one holding all of the horrific weight of everything that is being pulled down by acceleration. Eminez, welcome to the convoy! And yes, I'm glad to be flying again too. I'm sorry this looks like an operating table, but we are disassembling a human body in order to take a look at what exactly makes me so upset every time I see vessels with a vertical deck layout. So, 1 second please, wingmates. Allow me to hydrate myself very quickly. Wonderful. Now, we will get to the ships in just a second, wingmates. I've gone on a tangent, but I will see this tangent through to the end. Now, let's take your classic shuttle-looking vessel here. There we go. This is our shuttle. We have a horizontal deck in it. Let's just say we are standing here. Now, we are going to be accelerating at 1 gravity. That means that you, in essence, are being pushed backwards within your hull at 1 gravity. Imagine fighting all of this all the time. You're going to be rammed into the wall right here. Now make this 20 gravities. You will be pressed against the wall here at 20 gravities, and you will have to be fighting with your hands to reach controls and to access the rest of the vessel. Now normally we would not even be running at 20 gravities, but even at 3 gravities, during a combat burn for something like a system patrol vessel, which does not have acceleration tanks, oftentimes. Yes, stacked on top of each other like a tall house, indeed, Kimmy Spice. Yes, Coco Bungus, that is, Kimmy is right there. So this is a vertical deck layout. So we have our ship and we have decks arranged like this, whereas a horizontal deck layout would be a ship where the decks are arranged like this. And you end up having portholes and things like that oftentimes in science fiction designs. And this is exactly where this problem occurs, where the whole point of constantly being able to accelerate without some sort of artificial gravity dampener or some other far-fetched technology is a bit insane. And yes, Eminez, this is exactly why the Expanse vessels are built like they are. If you look at the Rocinante, or one of the Donager class battleships of the Mars Congressional Republic Navy, they are going to be stacked like this. Let's see here. Yes, yes, Mighty Germ, indeed it does. Cocobungus. I do not remember what scenes in Halo have decks like this, because if I recall, the Pillar of Autumn is, if I draw her in a brief way, her decks are stacked like this. While her engines are located here, so her thrust axis is actually this way. So I don't think it's the Pillar of Autumn. TK, welcome to the convoy. Excellent. Excellent to see you here. Let's see here. Alright. Okay, so this is one of my biggest pet peeves, is the deck stacking. And all it takes is just a little bit of change, and suddenly all of these designs would make me a lot happier. So, without further ado, without even more ado, the Pillar of Autumn... Pillar of Autumn is an interesting name, I will say, but I enjoy it greatly. Okay, so here is our conventional Star Destroyer. Let's begin in earnest, wingmates. I'm going to take my red marker, because I am critiquing. I'm not putting a banana sticker. Although I think we will give a banana sticker. Let's see here. Here we have a little banana sticker. And we're going to say A+ for trying. Now that we have given our participation award to the Star Wars Star Destroyer of the Imperial 1 or 2... No, this is not an Imperial. This is one of the interdictors, I think, because it has a... what do they call that? A grav field emitter and ion cannons located here, here, and here. Are there any more ion cannons? Oh, there's quite a number of ion cannon installations. So I forget which particular design this is. Let's see here. I mean the maid lady. Oh, the space, the maid from Spaceballs. You know, I don't know what the deck arrangement is on the maid starship from Spaceball 1 in maid configuration. Let's see here. What does Autumn have to do with a pillar? Well, Cocobungus, if you remember which installment it was, please feel free to let me know. Okay. Oh, it's not an immobilizer. Oh, thank you, Gorian. Okay, so let's take a look, wingmates. So first, off the bat, our decks are horizontal. So you are going to be wasting a lot of energy utilizing some kind of gravitational dampening field or some other nonsense in order to make the people who could normally just be arranged like this and standing end on end. You're going to be wasting all of that power that could have gone to weapons, to shields, to anything else. You're wasting that on making people stand straight up as this vessel accelerates. Now, I will say this. Hyperspace has some kind of odd physics that I cannot understand because the ship itself probably would have been torn asunder if it was actually accelerating from nothing to light speed, or relative nothing to light speed or beyond. So hyperspace behaves in ways that we cannot analyze here. So, 1. Decks. So, let me change the size of this stylus, wingmates. So, here we have decks. We have an issue with that. Always. This will, essentially, I will stop mentioning this. Almost every single design out here has that issue. So, big blunder 2. Bridge. The bridge, wingmates, is completely in the line of fire. And not only that, but there is an actual physical viewport. Now, wingmates. Yes, the main target indeed. It's a one-off class. Well, thank you, Gorian. I appreciate you trying. Yeah, it did not look like either of them, because I think the interdictor has 2 of these domes, if I recall correctly. But it's something like that. So, wingmates, you do not want this exposed. Okay, so what is this vessel is likely several hundred meters long. Wingmates, can you, at a distance of a football field or beyond, or the standard American 20th century football field for playing gridiron football? Oh, it's Imperial Star Destroyer with a ball photoshopped in the bottom. But Eminez, here's the thing. It has ion cannons, which are definitely here on the model. It does not appear to be photoshopped. This appears to be someone's fan construction. But either way, it demonstrates the Imperial's design well enough. Interesting, Lion Chops. Thank you for that lore about the Pillar of Autumn. How it was being constructed upwards like a pillar, and the ship was finished in the autumn season. Therefore, the ship was called the Pillar of Autumn. That is very interesting. Thank you. I am a fan of the Halo ship designs, although not their deck layouts. So, you always want to bury your bridge somewhere in the core of your vessel, because all else failing, guns failing, hull failing, drives failing, you want the crew to survive. So that is a big no-no. We put the bridge in the core. Now, let's see here. Both have 4 domes, the larger interdictor and the smaller mobilizer class. Oh yes, thank you, Gorian. So yes, 4 domes for them. Let's see here. Okay, so. Okay, so let's just take a look at what this vessel's job is. Well, okay, so I am okay with the way that the turrets are laid out for this particular design. We have adequate front-facing coverage with these 3 frontal turrets. However, what is interesting to me is that there is a wasted opportunity to have a full forward-facing battery. So as you can see, these ion cannons, or whatever guns you want them to be called, on a different Star Destroyer class, they would likely not be ion cannons. They are mounted within these divots. Now, while that will provide protection from firepower coming in forward with this sacrificial armor or hull blocking shots, you are also losing forward firepower, which may have actually been utilized for preventing those shots from being fired in the first place, especially if these are the ion cannons. Now, I'm not going to debate the merits of a pulse weapon designed to disable the electronics of a ship, which, mind you, should be shielded against such phenomena. And of course, how you even deliver that particular sort of effect. But we're not going to digress too much. But even just from a design perspective, we have this strange divot where the gun is mounted. We are losing precious firing arc, whereas we could have simply mounted it on a flat surface, or at least with a bit of appropriate armoring here, and had at the very least a very significant firing angle, which would have allowed the cruciform design, or not the cruciform, the dagger design of the vessel to actually take its forward firepower and combine it with the turrets on top for its dorsal and ventral turrets, if there are any ventral turrets. That is another thing that this vessel has an issue with. It has no ventral turrets that I can tell, or at least no capital grade weapons. It might be tactics to come angled in forward to guard the gravel generator. That may be. Well, the gravel generator, it's interesting that it would have to be mounted here. I would honestly mount it forward and put more armor on it, but it also depends on how the physics of this particular situation demand that the gravel generator is exposed or not. Obviously, it's aerodynamic, so it doesn't create drag while flying in space. Yes, Eminez. I would assume the divot is to make use of the ship's armor than arming the turret itself, as we are likely taking practical applications. Well, Ray, I do wonder. One of the things that I have... there is no drag in space, Lion Chops, at least unless the density of the... So, there is drag in space, because there are particles still in the interstellar medium. And that becomes a concern when you have a massive surface area. There is also solar drag, which has a significant effect, especially if you are having satellites placed into position. Now, solar drag would essentially be the surface area of your vessel is being exposed to the photons coming from a distant sun. And photons exert their own pressure by imparting energy onto a surface. There is no aerodynamic drag, but there are other forms of what you would maybe describe as drag. However, in the typical relative velocities to the interstellar medium and to the relative densities of the interstellar medium, you do not have to care about aerodynamics for the most part. Solar wind is still equivalent to wind, right? Only very generally, Lion Chops. Something that has a massive surface area, like a solar sailor vessel, would be concerned with the way its sail is shaped. However, that becomes sort of a mathematical issue. But yes, there is a minimal drag. So it's yes technically, but no practically. All right, so one of the things I would say about the armoring of turrets is that if we look at historical precedent and even the precedent of current at least to me, ship design. If you're going to be armoring turrets, you will definitely want them to be as well protected, if not more, than the hull. And also, if we take a look at what happens in Star Wars, oftentimes when you see turbo laser impacts upon the hull of any of these vessels, you see massive blasts of sparks from the inside. So what I would also argue is that armor on Star Wars vessels is a joke. Even on these Star Destroyers, or at the very least, the firepower and the effects of turbo lasers are so great that armor is irrelevant. So in some sense, you do end up having a question of, is this target right here, these gun batteries, are they small enough and are they well armored enough to resist firepower that you don't want to bury them in trenches and have to use your ship positioning to protect them? Or are you going to simply have them exposed? Do you want trenches or do you want them exposed? So this is sort of a conceit of the system, of the physics system that we are pertaining to. When your ground vehicles got killed by logs of all things. Well, one should not underestimate what simple mass and what velocity will do at Burrow. And I would almost argue that those walkers are only meant to resist light arms fire. However, I do see that the fact that they even sent those vehicles in is a telling to Imperial doctrine. Asteroid vaporization argument intensifies. Yes, StarDestroyer.net is something we will not be going on, wingmates. And yes, armor in Star Wars is a joke indeed. It is plot armor that is most important in this situation. So, in essence, exposing the weapon for better firing arcs, as we will hear, is sort of a tactical trade-off. And I would say that having the ability to have a full alpha strike facing forward is very important. Now, wingmates, one thing you must consider is, can you power all of your weapon systems at once? Because perhaps the power systems on this destroyer, those at least allotted away from shielding, away from engines, away from life support, are not actually enough to power all of the weapons on the vessel simultaneously. There may actually be significant issues with that. However, I would say that is almost a waste of a design to some extent, because you are wasting tonnage on duplicate positions. However, this isn't a waste in many cases, because if your ship is simply too difficult to maneuver, you are better off having more weapons emplacements to cover all of your flanks. It is a lot of balancing that you have to do when you design a warship. However, overall, I am still somewhat pissed with this design, especially with the bridge. So I will also say that the incomplete armor coverage on this centerline trench. So another boo-boo that we have here. Number 3, the trench. And in fact, there are several trenches here that are beyond armor protection. This should all be covered by this flat greebled armor here. Let's see. To be fair, the Empire was effective against 99% of the galaxy. The 0.01% or 0.1% of the rebels had good weapons. Indeed, Eminez, I think that is the Rebellion won on plot armor and on what I would describe as, I suppose, not having hubris as much as the Empire did, and essentially that. 100% style over logic, yes. The only ship I've ever seen that can take an actual beating is the Millennium Falcon. Oddly enough, it is, Lion Chops. Oddly enough, it is. Let's see. Ground armies don't make a lot of sense to invent tons of resources if they can be blasted from orbit. I suppose boots on the ground are important if you don't want to orbitally devastate a planet, if you want to take it. Sometimes, imagine if rebels are hiding within a valuable factory, and the only asset you have is an orbital weapon. You essentially will only have a hammer for problems that simply... When you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, is the expression that I'm trying to say. Ah yes, they did double as carriers, and welcome to the convoy, Bigglesworth. And Phantom Mariachi, welcome to the convoy. Let's see here. Yes, boots on the ground are very critical. Star Destroyers double as fighters. Do fighters have any merit in space combat? I would say they have little merit unless you're using them as planetary defense craft, where they're able to take off from Atmo, and you do not have proper, I suppose, command systems that will not suffer jamming, and when you are able to afford electronic intelligence for controlling your drones in a proper manner. Okay, so overall, the Star Destroyer is, it's a design. I'm gonna give it a very generous B, maybe a B minus actually. So, well, an A plus for trying, but a B minus, maybe even a middle of the road rating here for what they're doing. So, why don't we start another layer, and we actually think about how I would want to have the vessel designed. It does look cool. B for based. Even if your force is composed of expendable units, I think as a resource, you would be wise as a commander preserving your assets. Yes, Ray. Even if each individual trooper is inexpensive, the fact that you need space on a troop ship to deliver them to a planetary service, and you need all of the landing vessels. Can you imagine how much more mass you would have for weapons and armor on your ship if you were expending half as much mass on landing craft and troop berthing accommodations on your vessel, if they were effective enough to not be killed outright the way that stormtroopers are, despite the actual canon stating that stormtroopers are surprisingly effective, despite all videographic evidence indicating that they are not. The cruelty is the point. That is a good statement, Ringo. Participation ribbon. Okay, so I'm not going to do a detailed sketch, but in essence, what I would do with the Star Destroyer is keep its cruciform design, but make it more like a pyramid. So it would be something like this. So this is a wireframe design, but in essence, it would be a pyramid. Now, while I do like the squish, I would rather keep my axes of rotational inertia the same everywhere. So in essence, we would have a pyramidal design with the drives on the bottom here, and the drives would probably be arranged in a quad manner to allow for some modicum of thrust vectoring. So here are the drives. Let's see here. The bridge would be buried in the middle. Oh, Megbert, welcome to the convoy. Good to see you here. Let's see here. Terrible present. Thank you. God, this discussion makes me want to play a strategy board game, Star Wars Rebellion. Melchior, I have not actually played that one. How is it? Let's see here. Gorian, that is ribbled. Oh my god. I wish there were cool clone trooper type characters. Clone troopers were slightly better. Indeed, they were, Ray. Especially in the Star Wars Clone Wars series, you got to see quite a bit of them. And even in the Star Wars Rebels series, you got to see quite an interesting side to the retired troopers, Spacer Flakes. Oh my gosh. Now, I should probably zoom in here. I don't know why I have such a small canvas. Let me delete that, wingmates. So let's do this sideways. So the vessel will be a triangular pyramid, in my conception. Probably have a blunt tip. Here would be the drives, located on the back. The deck arrangement would be horizontal, in this sort of axis. Now, shield generators, in order to keep that aesthetic, they would have one per side. So because shield generators seem to need to be external, you would end up having the shield generators sort of symmetrically arranged on all sides of the vessel. Now, for firepower. Where would we mount the firepower? Now, I would probably... Now, to keep some of that extended aesthetic, we would put what I would describe as an elevated platform here. And maybe this could be a place for launching some kind of sub-munitions, like torpedoes. Although torpedoes are not something that is commonly utilized in the Star Wars canon. And so here, we would have our turbo laser batteries mounted in this sort of fashion. And since they would be mounted on a descending pyramid, they would be able to super fire over each other. And of course, this is, I suppose, somewhat of a lackadaisical drawing. Let's see here. Art! Yes, we are doing art indeed. Well, I suppose we are mostly chatting, though. Yes, The Bad Batch. I have not seen that one completely. Gorian's canon artwork. Okay, let's see here. So yes, the turrets would be facing forward, of course, with something facing to the rear in order to provide at least some coverage. But in essence, this would provide you essentially full coverage and give you a full alpha strike. So in this situation, in this arc, let's see here. So the forward arc of the vessel, essentially a cone, something like this, would have a full alpha strike. And out here we would have, at the very least, two to three gun batteries able to face, because we could rotate these sideways and face them up. Although it does depend on the bearing and how low we can depress the guns. So if we look at the vessel from head on, apply directly to the forehead, wingmates. This particular Star Destroyer, so here it has the elevated deck structure, simply to keep the stylistic aspect. I'm not going to replicate this because it's symmetrical around all four axes. We would be able to potentially get a fire arc sideways here, depending how low we can depress these guns. So it would be essentially the gun battery and how low we can do that. Going below the deck here. So there would be a certain angle of convergence where we would have a full fire arc. So here we have lower guns represented in blue, then we have upper guns represented in orange, and when we're both crisscross is where we have complete arc coverage for the broadsides of our attack here. Let's see. It is fairly aggressive. It is like 4 Salamis cruisers. Thank you for the links, Gorian. Let's see here. Yep, it does look a little bit like the Salamis indeed. Or Salamis. Why do I keep calling it Salamis? It is not salami. Salami is an Italian thing. Let's see here. Ah, the Destiny 2 spaceship. I wonder how its decks are arranged in terms of its flight. Let's see here. Okay. My choice ends Starship. Excellent. I do like that triangle. No salami spacecraft. Let's see. Do they have an Italy in the future? Mao, as far as I'm aware, the continent of Italy was devastated in the same planet-cracking event that destroyed Terra during the Implosion Wars. So, no, there is no Italy, as far as I'm aware. Italy is a lie. Alright, 1 second, please, wingmates. A little bit more hydration for me. Oh, Ray, Terra is not gone. It has simply been relinquished to the reclamation authorities. For whatever projects they deem necessary. However, it is more than 900 light years away from my position, so I have never visited it personally, although some consider it to be a pilgrimage, at least from what I've heard. Let's see here. Italy doesn't exist, just like Finland. My home. Oh, I'm sorry, Ray. Do you have a particular penchant for Italy? I apologize to bring you the bad news. Alright, so, here is essentially what our vessel would look like. Now, this is a very simplistic redesign, but I think this is where I would start. And if we were to look at it from the rear, we would also have 4 of these drives facing this way. Now, one thing I did forget is fighter launch bay. Now, one thing that I would not really care for is fighters. However, we can have external ports, perhaps located here, or ports located here, where fighters can be launched sideways. Now, when it comes to fighter launch, I will, I suppose, explain a bit later how I would launch them. But suffice it to say, in essence, if you look at the hull from the side, you would essentially have an opening that would pop open right here, and then you would have a launch arm roll out, and a fighter would move from a bay, and let's just represent the fighter with this little globule. It would move on a rail, go to this position, be hanging out here as the vessel is accelerating, and the release would occur right here. And so the fighter craft would, allow me to utilize animation here. Oh, whoops. Oh, no. Gimme. There we go. The fighter craft would simply detach and fall away, and then ignite its drive and boost into whatever position it needed to, relative to the vessel that is dropping it. Let's see here. Ray is a pasta. Ray is not a pasta. I meant Terra. Terra isn't real, just like birds. The cake is a lie. Pasta la vista. Oh, like BSG. Um, I mean, BSG is fiction, but the reality is that Terra has been destroyed. Let's see here. Finland. Finland does not exist. Oh, Finland does not exist. Oh, thank you for this data, Kimmy. I will, of course, relay it to anyone who thinks that Finland is a real entity. Absolutely unacceptable. All cakes are actually made out of sawdust and food coloring. I don't know if that's the case, E-Ghost, but welcome to the convoy either way. If I didn't say that already, I apologize. Okay, so, wingmates. Are you satisfied with my thinking for the Star Destroyer? Please let me know if there are any other points that you would like. Oh, you meant the fighter launch. You meant the fighter launch. We are not using a launch tube. We are using a launch rail. But we could use a tube in a sense, too. Although we will go into that a little bit later when there are designs that are more fighter-oriented. Now, when it comes to the gravity emitter, I'm not even going to bother with that. I'm going to basically assume that the emitter could actually be located somewhere forward. So if we go back to our brush, we could have these domes located forward, which would replace the single centralized emitter. Okay, you are satisfied with this take. Excellent, wingmates. Let's continue on to another paint layer. Alright, wingmates, our second ship. So, I will say this. If I'm not going to get to your ship tonight, which I'm most definitely not going to get to your ship tonight, this will likely be a recurring segment in my data transmissions because I greatly enjoy this, and I am currently shaking because I have so many things to say about these vessels, but my brain is simply unable to comprehend or simply handle how much I wish to deal with it. Alright, wingmates, let's find a viewer submission. Alright. Let's take a look what we have here. We have that. Okay, let's go with something a little bit more... Let's go with something a little bit more nonsensical. Why do I have Amogus here? Why is there Amogus? Amogus is not what I wanted. Okay, let's go with Dr. Gel's Starship, wingmates, from the hit anime Space Dandy. Let's see here. Dr. Gel's ship. Here we go. Insert as new layer. Oh my goodness, that is very tiny. I'm going to have to find another reference for Dr. Gel's. Oh, thank you for the sus. Thank you for the sus emote. There we go. Excellent. A dandy man in space. All right. Wingmates, if you have any other references for Dr. Gel's spaceship, let me find one real quick here. Dr. Gel's spaceship. Because I do not want to blow up this this JPEG any further. It is already very grainy. Let's see, we have Dr. Gel, we have Dr. Gel of the Gogol Empire spaceship. Not a lot of references at all, unfortunately. We're just going to have to roll with this, wingmates. Although there may be captures from the anime itself, that would be much better. Okay, so let's grab Dr. Gel's spaceship. And I don't know how many times I've said Dr. Gel's spaceship, but this is hardly the last time you will have heard me say Dr. Gel's spaceship, wingmates. I'm sorry, that is an inappropriate meme to utilize here. Okay. I need to use the correct scaling tool here. Alright, there we go. And let's expand. Expand gel. Or expand spaceship. Alright, there we go. Excellent! So now we have Dr. Gel's spaceship. Let's take an analysis of this. Let's utilize our red criticism pen. So first, let's give a participation award to Dr. Gel's spaceship. So, utilizing our banana sticker, or our banana sticker indicator, let's see here. Oh, that is a very nasty yellow. We're going to make a nice gold yellow because awards are gold. Let's see here. So for the wingmates, your rating is A+ because you're wonderful. Okay. But for Dr. Gel's spaceship, what participation trophy will we have? I think I would give this a... We'll give it a star sticker, I think, wingmates. There's a star sticker. I don't know if that's a star, but it's a sticker. Alright, this monstrosity. Oh, yes, it does have a Statue of Liberty, so it also has an A. There we go. No. I'm sorry. This is wrong. Freedom. Freedom. Bald eagle. There we go. Perfect. The you tried star. All right. Apologies, wingmates. So, let's see here. I do love Terran poop posting culture, wingmates, so I do apologize. So, this ship is... I don't even know where to begin. Oh, Gorian, let's see what you got here. You know, sometimes people steal Mercedes-Benz logos off the actual... Yep, yes, Tyler. That is something that people do when they put the logos of fancier cars. Ah, perfect. Thank you. I will plunk this right onto here. Oh, that is very spooky. That is very, very spooky. Let's maneuver that correctly. We'll put that off to the side here. There we go. That should be just fine. Okay, that's good enough. Now that is something interesting. I like that. Okay, so protected silos and lasers. That is excellent. That is excellent. Let's see here. The bottom pointy area is very unnecessary. Well, we have to think about the design. So, now, what is even going on here? So if we take a look at the design, using a red pen, our bridge is located here. So here we have the bridge, and here we have the drives. So this is drive 1, and this is drive 2. So the thrust. Let's see. Apologies, wingmates. There we go. We had a bit of a technical snafu. It might have rattled your bones, Attenborough. Oh, poor Phantom Mariachi. Oh, you found a reference drawing. Wonderful. Thank you, Gorian. I can actually... Oh my, that is superior. Okay, everything that we have done now is inferior to this particular technical drawing. So let's plop that in there, wingmates. Excellent. Oh, that looks much more terrifying when it is technically done. My word, my word. Okay. Cocobungus, I am also very glad that this ship has made it in here. Alright, so. Alright, we have laser beam eyes. So, we have the bridge located somewhere here, if I recall. We have the drive units here and here, along with some weapons mounted on it. We have all of these spikes. Now, here's my thing. If the decks literally rotate these drives 90 degrees, so essentially, let me show you, wingmates, what I'm saying here. Let's grab this drive section. Let's see here, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to rotate it. Well, that's kind of dismal, but this is what I mean. If the drives were simply pointed up, although it's hard to do because this is a perspective drawing, but if you had rotated those drives up, which meant that the decks, which I am more than assuming are stacked this way, they are going, then half of the sins of this design are completed. Also, what I would also do is I would create a secondary Statue of Liberty face on the posterior side of the ship. So that way, you would in essence have a two-faced vessel, with one Statue of Liberty face here, and one Statue of Liberty face here. I cannot draw them very quickly, so smiley faces will have to do. Now, I'm simply trying to stay within the conventions of the Space Dandy universe, because you cannot assume that. My goodness, Gorian, where do you find this? I'm gonna paste this as a reference image. Let's see here. Actually, we'll paste it as another layer because I simply do not have the wherewithal to save images right now. There we go, wingmates. As another layer, here it is. There we go. So as you can see, the drive sections. Thank you so much for that image, Gorian. That is wonderful. As you can see, it has a drive section on the bottom, and it unfolds to reveal the lower drive. Oh, and it's got good symmetry, wingmates. Oh, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. Subarashi. Okay, wingmates, it has triple symmetry. Now, I would love for there to be another Statue of Liberty head in order to provide symmetry for this vessel. But this is acceptable. This is acceptable. I'm not sure about the triple symmetry. I would have preferred quadruple symmetry in this situation. But, yes, wingmates, I'm actually surprised. Besides from the minor disbalance and the unnecessary spikes, this is actually a vessel I do not mind. I don't like Dandy's ship nearly as much, but it appears that the decks are stacked correctly in this situation. However, I do know that in the anime, the ship does actually fly forwards, but I'm going to forgive this vessel because whoever was doing the technical drawing for it was, actually did this. Oh, it still might have an engine on the back. Well, we do not have an engine on the back, so I guess this is a conditionally good design if it was symmetrical. So let me explain my interest in having it be symmetrical for a second here, wingmates. Oh, so there is an engine on the back. Thank you, Gorian. Allow me to paste another layer, wingmates. All right, 1 second, please. And here we go. So, thank you very much for that. As you can see, there is unfortunately engine on the back. Now, throw all of that away and I would be doing much better. So, Xnay on the engine A. There we go. Throw that away. And I would be much happier if we had another Statue of Liberty head or something else like that. So, in essence, what I would do is I would take... Let me use this selector tool here. I would grab the Statue of Liberty here. I would control copy, control V. I would take the movement function and I would use my tool flip here. And there we go. So that is in essence what I would propose being done here. For more weapons coverage, oh, and also what I would do to this section right here is I would take this dome here and I would straighten it out. So let me use the skew tool actually to straighten that out. We're going to use plastic surgery, wingmates. Let's see. Grab that. Oh, that's an empty layer. Should be using that. Come on. Nope. Transformation is incorrect. Wrong layer. Wrong layer. Let's see. What layer is this? This is the layer I wanted to transform. So we're going to take this layer and we're going to transform it. Nope. Wrong layer. Wrong layer completely. Okay. Let's see here. Maybe that's for FTL. It could be. It could be. Use the splines. I am trying to use the splines. 1 second, please. Okay. Here we go, wingmates. Oh, my goodness. This is infuriating. I can do this, but Krita can't. No. Okay, let's select this cleanly. Okay, so which layer did I put this on? That's the layer we want. Okay, so we go to the transform tool. And we will utilize the splines. What is this? This is granularity. This is anchor strength. Oh, I could just use skew, actually. I'll use skew instead. Oh, that looks terrible. But that demonstrates my point. There we go. So basically, I would level that out. And, you know, I think that is almost the way I would want this ship to be if I was to symmetrize it. And then, of course, the drives would be pointing up. As per in the previous image. It does look like an ice cream cone. All right, let me actually explain why I would like to see some symmetry. So I'm gonna make a fill layer here. Apologies, wingmates. We had a bit of a simulation hiccup. So overall, I'm going to give this ship, just from my headcanon of it, a solid, okay, so the Star Destroyer retroactively gets a C. This is going to get a B at least, I think. So let me jot that down. So we're going to give this vessel a B, because I think that with some modifications, it suits my aesthetics. And also, I enjoy that it has significantly heavy armament. Now, now I'm not going to focus on every single flaw of a ship in every single analysis that I do. But let me explain why I am such a stickler for symmetry. So, here we go. Let me fill this in with some nice gray, because gray is a great color for the eyes. And I will have another layer here, and I will begin my convoluted drawings. Okay, so, going back to our brush. Let's see here. Okay, so. Now, imagine wingmates. We have a starship that we want to move. Let's make it a... Oh, what am I using here? What layer is this on? There we go. Excuse me. What's going on here? Apologies, wingmates. I require 1 second. Krita is misbehaving as it always is. Krita, my dear. Krita, my sweet. Can you, for once, in the middle ground, me meet? Krita, my strong. Krita, my long. Oh, how you have made me feel so wrong. Okay, 1 second, please, wingmates. I require a bit of finagling here in my simulation hardware. 1 second, please. In the meantime, I will utilize my hydration system. Lion chops. I'm very glad I was not drinking a fluid at the present time. Ah, Subarashi. Okay, there we go. Wonderful. All right. Now, let's see if the issue has corrected itself. It has indeed. Okay, so, symmetry. Symmetry. Now, it's important that it's symmetry, not symmetra. See, this is Overwatch. And we don't do that here. We want symmetry. All right, so, anyways. So imagine we have a mass. We're going to use a spherical cow to represent that mass. I'm sorry for that terrible joke, Tamaro. I am so sorry. So we have a spherical mass of mass M. Now, let's just say we have an engine strapped to the back of it, which is providing thrust. So it is venting propellant or some kind of mass out the back and providing us with thrust forward. Now, for a perfectly uniform sphere, the center of gravity, or center of mass, which is in essence the point around which an object would freely spin when in zero gravity, would be here. Now, if we say, for example, had a long rod or a long cylinder or something like that, the center of gravity would be located here, or center of mass would be located here. So it would spin around this point here, like this, like so. If we had an odd shape, like this triangle, in zero gravity, the center of mass would likely be somewhere here. So as it spins, it would spin around this location. So, one of the things you want to note is that we have a thrust axis here. The force is being applied down this line on the vessel. Now, imagine if, for example, we added on a blob here. We just welded on a blob of metal to this other blob of metal. This would ever so slightly shift the center of mass of the vessel over here. This, all of a sudden, wingmates, creates what we call in the business a moment arm. So, levers. If you have a big enough lever, you can move a mountain. So the principle of a lever is in essence that you have a fulcrum, balance point or something, and you have an arm of a given length here, and you apply a force to it. Now, you would also conversely be applying, there would be another moment arm here, and a force that you would conversely be applied this way across the balance point. This is sort of a general idea of levers, but this is what's happening here. Imagine this fulcrum. So when we press down here, this part will go up. But if we recall oh my goodness, it's been some time since I've done statics. So the balancing is, we have force, let me use a different color for this. So we have force 1, and we have force 2 here. And then we have length 1, and we have length 2. So force 1 times length 1 Oh goodness, too many colors. And then I will use an equal sign in blue. It's going to be balanced out by... Oh, no. My goodness, wingmates. My deepest apologies here. Let me engage in erasing here. There we go. So length 1 times force 1 is equal to the same thing as force 2 times length 2. So we are balancing the moment arms here, the momentum, the momentum, because there's a momentum going this way and it must be balanced this way by either if this is to be in static equilibrium. In dynamics, this is a little bit different. But what I'm basically saying here, wingmates, is that you now, because everything in zero gravity, essentially everything works around the center of mass. You suddenly have a force in this red arrow working on the lever arm right here, lever arm L, with thrust force F. So that means all of a sudden you have a rotation imparted on the craft. So what would happen is this entire craft would begin spinning while also being propelled forward. So you would, if you looked at the trajectory from start point here, you would have something that looks like this. You would have spirals or an ever widening spiral. Something like that. So that is no good. So, what would we do in a situation where a ship is naturally disbalanced like this? As you can see, we have this lever arm, and we have this shifted center of mass. What we would likely do is we would gimbal our drive. And by gimbal our drive, I mean literally take the exhaust and angle it a little bit. Many drives are capable of doing this. Most spacecraft with gimbaled engines are able to do this. Or even fusion drives will have deflectors or means of even angling the entire fusion drive. And this is very important because, look, all of a sudden this imbalance can be corrected because what will happen is we will actually be redirecting, and I should not be using yellow for this, let me use purple, or actually magenta. We will be redirecting the thrust axis directly over the shifted center of mass. Yes, gimbaling is very wonderful, Lift Chef. Gimbaling also lets you do this intentionally. So wingmates, we just used our gimbaled motor in yellow in its new position to make our new magenta, or our new pink, thrust axis, to essentially make it so that this ship no longer has to have this spinning moment because the lever arm ceases to exist. There is no lever arm. So, one of the things that is happening here, yes, it's adjustable. It is adjustable. It's an adjustable engine. Now, if we go back to say our classic-looking Starship design, this Buck Rogers-esque rocket, if this thing has a gimbaled engine, we can actually utilize this to turn a ship. So, for example, even if its center of mass is dead on with its axis of symmetry, we would be able to rotate the engine and adjust our thrust axis like this. So there becomes our new thrust axis, and there is our new lever arm right here. And as you can see, that will impart a massive rotational moment on this craft, allowing it to turn, which is why gimbaling is so important. Let's see here. I would mostly expect some adjustable secondary thrusters. Aha! So, Lift Chef makes a great point, wingmates. What if you had your classic Buck Rogers rocket that you wanted to turn, and you had a fixed main engine, and you had instead some thrusters here? Now let's draw our center of gravity or center of mass here again. Now, if you've ever seen me play Kerbal Space Program, you will note how aggressive I am in placing my RCS thrusters as far as possible away from the center of mass. So if we look at it, here's our lever arm, and here is our new thrust axis for both of these thrusters. So what happens is if you say, for example, ignite this thruster right here, we now have a force that will push this way and rotate the ship like this. Now, reaction control thrusters are very important because they let you do something a gimbal won't let you. So, for example, let's say we have another thruster here, and we have we burn it also right here. So we've engaged both of these side thrusters in a burn. This means that we actually have another thrust arm here, or another arm here, a lever arm here, but we also have a thrust. So we have two counteracting forces. Now this needs to be balanced. So these thrusts, so thrust 1 and thrust 2, do not necessarily have to be equal, because the actual positioning of these lever arms, lever arm 1 and lever arm 2, may not also be equal. So you would actually be adjusting these thrusts and the design of your vessel depending on this particular positioning and where you expect cargo loads to be. But what this allows us to do is have a combined net thrust sideways without rotating the vessel for translation. Translation. So this is also very important, especially for docking maneuvers and less so in combat. Now, wingmates, let's note one thing here. We have these thrusters that we have drawn are located awfully close to crew compartments. And that means we have way less space to run them. And very importantly, most atomic engines that have enough thrust to move large vessels, or even plasma thrusters, plasma thrusters less so, but anything that is atomic, such as the primary drive of the vessel, which likely has a lot of radiation shielding, is big, it's heavy, and it's dangerous. In essence, the primary engine is very dangerous in most designs, unless you're using a typical chemical propellant rocket or a one from the 20th century. You will have a very dangerous nuclear-powered drive of some kind. So, just to draw you a basic idea, if we have our classic Buck Rogers stereotype ship, apologies, wingmates. There we go. We would have our drive exhaust here, and we would have our engine be probably a big fraction of the ship itself. Likely here, we would also have propellant. So this would all be propellant for our reactor and our actual engine itself. We would probably have crew actually buried here in the center. So the life support systems and all of that would be buried here in the middle. And then we would have a shell of other equipment and armor and the like for the rest of the vessel. But because, and I'm going to label this in vehement magenta, this is radioactive. These rays coming out are lethal radiation. We want as much distance right here between the crew. Oh, this is the wrong color to use for this. Between the crew and the radiation, we want always as much distance as possible. We would probably have a shadow shield here, which would essentially be a if we represent radiation as a sphere coming out of a source, what a shadow shield does is as it says, it literally creates a shadow here. So this right here would be a shadow where we have, say, for example, gamma radiation here. Here there would not be gamma radiation, or at least a reduced amount here, because the source, the rays of radiation, while they can bounce through other materials, that is far less of an important. Almost very little actually deflects gamma rays. Most everything will absorb gamma rays and be, either transmuted, etc. Gamma ray mirrors are incredibly difficult to make. So, as you can see, the shadow shield here would protect the crew. So we'd in essence have a zone here where there would be reduction in radiation. And the fuel would additionally protect the crew further. So, going back to my original point, these RCS thrusters would likely not be something powerful like a typical atomic drive, which means that the relative magnitude of the thrust your RCS thruster can provide, so let's call this thrust 1, thrust 2, relative to thrust main, or thrust M. Thrust M is much, 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 much greater than thrust 1 or thrust 2. So this is the crucial point, which is why we want gimbaling. Because even though the angle here is a perfect 90 degree to the lever arm, even with a 10-degree cant, the fact that the thrust of the main drive is so much bigger than the thrust of the typical safe RCS thruster, you are much better off rotating your vessel using that. Isn't it effective design if it radiates like that? Well, you see, Lion Chops, it costs mass to insulate a reactor from radiation. And most vessels, you need a lot of mass is the thing. You need a lot of very dense and expensive, oftentimes, materials in order to absorb that radiation. And that is a huge problem. So, let me pull up the rocket equation here, wingmates, because I am tired of forgetting the rocket equation. 1 second, please. Let's see here. The rocket equation. I should know this one by heart, but this is why I let the autopilot calculate everything for me. This is like if you were to ask someone to pull out an abacus and find you a square root of a 6-digit number. They would not be able to do it because it is something we have had machinery supplement for us. Okay, here we go. All right, so the Tsiolkovsky rocket equation is, and I will put this on a new page, or a new layer here. Let's hide this layer here. So the Tsiolkovsky rocket equation, wingmates, is that the... Is it doing this again to me? Is it really? Well, wingmates, we're going to have a hydration break while the hardware here corrects itself. Thank you for your patience. I do apologize for this bit of a tangent, but the question was asked: why does Spacer have such a stick up his posterior about symmetry? And I'm going to tell you why, and I will tell you all of my reasons why. And this is all simply building up to that. 1 second, please, wingmates. All right. So this we're actually going to talk about Lifship's point here. Oh no, I'm sorry, Lion Chops' point. Okay. So Tsiolkovsky's rocket equation: delta V is equal to, allow me to pull this up very quickly, wingmates, is equal to the exhaust velocity times the natural logarithm of the mass, of the initial mass versus the final over the final mass of the rocket. So this is our wet mass and this is our dry mass. And what this looks like here, okay, we have the rocket equation. This is what matters here. Too many L's. The viewers are blending into one another. We are one. Okay, so delta V is one of the most important things in a spacecraft. Delta V is the amount you can change your velocity. So say, for example, we have our classic Buck Rogers point rocket. Right now it's at velocity equals 0. We're going to use some thrust to increase its velocity to something. So we will increase that velocity to, say, velocity 10. So it is moving. Now, if we want to stop, we actually have to turn around and we have to burn backwards. And we need to expend 10 more velocity units, or the equivalent thereof. This is to simplify it. To stop, basically to counteract this momentum vector, or vector of velocity. Okay, excuse me. So what a vector is we have a magnitude. We have a magnitude, and we also have a direction. That is all a vector is. So a vector is an arrow. So here we have the origin, and here we have a distance, which represents a certain quantity. This is our magnitude. And the fact that we've drawn it like this on the screen is the direction. Now we can do vector math like this. Basically, say we have two of these vectors right here. They're both facing a similar direction. What we can do is align them nose to tail, and that will give us our final vector mathematical result. Now there are other ways of doing vector math, but this is the most important thing. Because there is a directionality to it, just because we have a velocity 0 here, velocity 10 here, it also needs a direction. We have a velocity 10 this way. So we will have to cancel out that velocity backwards, in essence. So we will have used 20 total delta V. So basically, because ships have to do all of this maneuvering, you need to make sure that you have as much delta V as possible. Now, going back to my original point, exhaust velocity is a quantity that is dependent on the drive you are using and a number of other factors. But suffice it to say, the faster you can eject mass out the back of your rocket, the better. So, for example, the typical delta V of a chemical rocket, if I recall correctly, is let's see here. Chemical rocket exhaust velocity. Let's see here. Chemical rocket exhaust velocity. Okay, so at the highest upper limits, it typically is around 4.4 kilometers per second. So the particles, kilometers per second. The particles moving backwards out of the rocket will be at most this fast. Now, a torch dry, like something on my vessel, will be moving at magnitudes faster than this. So if you increase the velocity of the exhaust, you can increase delta V. So as VE goes up, delta V goes up. However, we can also look at the dry versus wet mass ratio. And this is to Lion Chops' point as to why we do not put a lot of protection on a reactor. So, let's take a look at our reactor here. We can either put protection right here, or we can put protection on all sides of it, including wrapping around it. So we go let's see here. So that is significantly more mass. So the whole point is that if we increase dry mass, so let's just say wet mass is, so the total mass of the ship is 10. And the dry mass, and by wet mass, I mean the mass of the structure of the ship, plus the mass of the propellant inside of it. And most ships have a very significant ratio of them that is nothing but propellant. So let's just say we have a total mass of 10 wet and then 2 dry. And this means that we have a wet to dry ratio of 5. This means that two units of the ship's mass, when it is completely without propellant, is this value. We're just doing arbitrary numbers here. Now let's just say we added all of this radiation shielding to protect others from the side. On this side, we can't even add radiation shielding because we must have our exhaust leave the drive. Let's just say this suddenly increases our dry mass to 3. So suddenly, we have decreased this number. This has gone from 5 to a number that I don't know, but it's going to be 3.33. Now 5 is greater than 3.33. And when you take the natural logarithm of those, while natural logarithm does smooth out many things, because e to what power is 5, and e to what power is 3. Because this is a power, you actually don't need a very big number here. So the difference is minuscule, but it will still have an effect on the delta V. And because we need as much delta V as possible, we choose to throw away as much mass as we can. Anywhere mass can be saved, we are going to be throwing it away. So you're using its own radiant mass as part of the acceleration. Lion Chops, when you say radiant masses, do you mean like the fuel? So for example, if you have a vessel, it has as part of its mass its fuel. And that fuel is inexorably wasted or shot out the back of the vessel when it is thrown out the engine. So basically, you take part of the ship's dry mass and then you throw it out the back, leading to eventually reaching your wet mass. Or, I'm sorry, your wet mass reaches your final mass. There we go. You are throwing fuel out the back at a given speed. So in essence, I'm going to do a full lecture on this, Wingmates. I think I've gone on a bit of a tangent enough. But suffice it to say, this is why we want to have as little mass as possible. And that's why we use shadow shields and not full shields. So anyways, back to my point about symmetry. So as you can see, a lot of designs in fiction sometimes have their drives offset like this. Now, unless we assume this part of the ship is not very dense, the center of gravity, or center of mass, is here. Now, relative to the thrust axis on all of these designs, we will always have a moment arm. So, there are a couple of very egregious designs that have this, and we will look into them, but this is nonsense. In essence, the fact that there is a constant moment arm is insane. It is a huge problem, because if we were assuming that this is how it's done, so yeah, like some there are some vertical ships that have this issue. Which Minmatar cruiser is this? I forget, but it looks like this sort of, and has some cannons here if I recall. But it has a drive offset up here, and it's a primary drive, and it has some more drives here. And it appears that the center of mass of the vessel is here. So what you end up having is a bunch of drives that are all imparting different moments, and I think there was even a third drive up here. And you end up wasting propellant. You end up having to waste propellant to simply balance out the way that the ship is about to spin. So you have a moment coming from this drive, you have a moment coming from this drive, and so this drive, almost like a helicopter tail rotor, has to end up canceling out the rotation the other way. And you are wasting a lot of thrust this way, or a lot of propellant that could have been expended differently. Well, actually, that is a darned lie. You are simply, none of the forward thrust is actually lost, because you are always utilizing it. As long as you have, okay, the physics of it is a little weird, but in essence, you are adding everything up, but you are also imparting stresses where there should not be any. And you are also running into the issue that if one of these engines is destroyed, your ship will begin spinning around, potentially. It is a big problem. So this is essentially why I have issues with non-symmetrical designs that have no way of stabilizing the thrust. There is nothing wrong with having engines that are off-center. For example, if we have a ship like this, and we have two equal-sized drives on either side, pushing the vessel. There is nothing wrong with that. I apologize, I got a little bit overzealous. This is a perfectly valid way of doing this, but the main thing is, what peeves me, is when it's completely asymmetrical. It's something like this. Just brah, and then pew, pew, with the center of mass clearly offset heavily here. That just, it doesn't jive. Okay, anyways, wingmates, I apologize about the madness. Let's move on to another ship design. Okay, here we go. Let's go to our images here. Sound effects make it more true, indeed. Okay, what's one that has been very... What's one that I really don't like? Let's see here. You know what? Let's do this. Let's do... Apologies, wingmates. 1 second. What's one that really jostles my Whedons here? There we go. We'll do Jupiter Ascending, I think. So I've never seen Jupiter Ascending, and after this, I do not know how I feel about it. But allow me to expand this here. All right, here we go. Let me stabilize the scaling here so it doesn't blow up. Come here. And there we are. Good enough. It's not a good movie. Yeah, avion-line ships are a huge offender for asymmetrical thrust ships. Yes, indeed they are. Okay, so, Jupiter Ascending. Alright, let me get my... Eve is the racist of symmetry. Movie likely disappointed from its trailer, but I'll watch it for the CGI. I have nothing against the artistry here, but it does sound like the movie itself is actually a bit of a letdown. Okay, let's see here. Rave stats. Let's see here. Oh yes, that is some really nasty asymmetrical thrust. Gorian, thank you for pointing that out. That is really bad. And not only that, but that bent skateboard with a kickstand, also has asymmetrical on multiple axes. I was simply talking on one axis. But don't forget, ships are three-dimensional entities, so you must balance it on all axes. Okay, so wingmates. I'm not even going to give this a banana sticker, because what is this? It's beautiful, but what is this? And why is my device here having problems again? Allow me to disconnect that. There we go. But what is this? And I guess the device represented my feelings about this vessel adequately. Let's see, what is going on here? Ba-da-ba-da-ba. Right, let's undo all of that. Rita, sweetheart, what are you doing? Are we going to have a talk again? Do those wings actually flap? I hope they don't flap. Why does it have wings? Ah, wingmates, so this is a good point. I will talk to you about wings shortly. I actually forgot to include wings in some of my other designs here. Come on, Krita, awaken. Krita, sweetheart. We're going to need to wait here a minute, wingmates. I apologize. Because it looks cool, Attenborough. That is a good point, Ghost. That is a good point. Let's see here. What do we have? You what? Yeah, that bench ship is really nasty, Gorian. Thank you for the parody. Yes, Rando Lurker, welcome to the convoy. It did mind break Krita. So, Krita, what's going on? Okay, there we go. Let's undo all of that nightmare, and let's add another layer. Okay, so. Jupiter ascending. What is this? What is this? I don't understand. What the hell is going on here? Okay, let's grab a marker. Wings? Why? Why are they shaped like this? Why? What is all this greebling here? What are these? Is this the primary armament? Does it have nothing but tail-facing broadside guns? Is there any armament forward? Are these cannons or are these just greebles? Are these crew spaces simply exposed to radiation and to the radiation of space and protected by nothing more than a sheet of glass or some sort of energy shielding? Are these hangars? What is this? Why? Where is the drive? Is this reactionless? Where's the fuel? Where? What? What are these? What is going on here? Wingmates, I don't even know. Like, it's a ship. The fact that it's reactionless. Yes, Melchior, I do dare question their wisdom. I don't know what this is. It's a ship. So, I like the way that it looks artistically, but I will say I can't salvage this. It really does look like the wings flap through space. I cannot salvage it in a way that keeps its original spirit, because its original spirit is looking kind of weird. So I guess the overall shape is something you could keep. But you would have to delete this, you'd have to delete that, make the radiators more sensible, and actually give it a proper drive. Maybe we could give it some drive nozzles here. Brrr, brrr. But then we have a massive radiation hazard to the crew, and we would have a massive radiation hazard to these tails here. Basically, you want nothing sticking past the drives, because everything past the drives is typically incredibly radioactive. At least if you're utilizing a nuclear engine, which typically you must, to utilize either fission or fusion in order to get the amount of energy you need to properly propel a spacecraft and have the correct exhaust velocity. Let's see here. If motion blur tells us anything. Oh, goodness. Like Tesla, wondering where the engine is. Alternative location and gears are all at lol. Yes, Lion Chops. I have heard of the historical Tesla electric vehicle and how its transitionary phase was definitely a bit difficult for people to understand. So wingmates, besides the shape, I don't know what I would do with this. Slap the decks like this. Okay, so, more importantly, what I will say about wings is this. In space, there is no convection. So the three forms of heat transfer are radiation, then we have convection, and then we have, it's not contact. Wingmates, forgive me. I'm just going to double check so I don't say anything silly here. Let's see. Forms of heat transfer. I want to say contact, but it's not the right one. 3 types of heat transfer. Conduction, convention. Okay, conduction. Yes, there we go. Conduction is correct. Convection and conduction. However, these are still very arbitrary judgments in terms of what it means to have heat transfer. Conduction. Friction creates energy. Friction is when two surfaces essentially transfer energy to one another. You could sort of consider it a force, a conduction heat transfer, but it's not really what we're talking about. No, it's not conduction, because friction generates heat, whereas conduction is all about transfer of heat. Wow, the guy who did these designs, George Hull, is pretty famous. He was working on the new Dune 4 and Matrix 4. Or Dune and Matrix 4. Ah, interesting. Thank you, Melchior. I mean, it is good art, but to me, it gives me too many peeves, is the thing, Wingmates. Too many peeves. And I will... Wingmates, serious talk. If any of you have issues with me taking issue with this art, that is more than okay. I am not judging the art. I am simply judging what makes my particular brand of obsessiveness and compulsiveness tingle. And that is really what I am talking about here. It is what makes my mind go haywire. Okay, so in space, so conduction is a form of heat transfer between two bodies. Let's just say red block here and green block here, where through the direct contact of the surfaces, this red-green line, heat in the form of blue for whatever reason, because, I don't know, blue is hot, it transfers directly through the material. The other form that could happen in an atmosphere is convection. So let's just say we have our green block here, wherever it may be. There we go. We have another green block, and we have gases, which we will label in magenta. We have a gas here. Oh, that's not magenta at all. What am I using? Multiply layer? No. So here's our magenta gas. Now, imagine if we zoom in here. Haywire? Spacer haywire? Yes, I am a little bit haywire. You're right, Kimmy. She is onto something. So let's just say we have a bit of a gas here. This gas particle is going to approach this hot object in green, and it will touch it. And that will potentially impart energy from our hot object here into the gas particle, making it a faster and more energetic gas particle. And that is how object green loses heat, whereas the particle gains heat. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, interesting. Wingmates, I apologize. It appears that we have a very significant transmission delay, so I will have to adjust that at some point. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, so this is another form of heat transfer. This is convection. It essentially utilizes gases that will move from one zone to another and take heat away from another object. Both of these are no-nos when you have neither atmosphere nor physical contact. Now, conduction, you could consider that to be water or perhaps touching the earth. So all we have is radiation. Now, radiation is, imagine if we have this object here. Now, when molecules get hot to a certain point, they begin to emit radiation. If you have ever seen a piece of hot iron taken out of a forge, what does it glow? It glows red hot. And that means that in essence, what's the word here? That means that the metal itself is emitting photons, and if you bring your hand close to it, it is also emitting infrared radiation and other spectrums of light. So somewhere on the spectrum of light, the hot iron is emitting something. Apologies, wingmates. Wingmates, I would like to do a quick little test. I'm going to say a word now, and please let me know when you hear it in chat. I would greatly appreciate that. So 3, 2, 1, now. And I would like to see what kind of timing issues we are having here. Oh, good. Excellent. So the latency is actually very good. Thank you, wingmates. And I don't know if I've said hello to you, but Too Spooky and Calavera, welcome to the convoy. Thank you. Oh, interesting. So we have some very different delays. I appreciate the knowledge, wingmates. Okay, so let's just say we have an object that is so hot that it is starting to glow. Thus, it will start emitting photons. It will emit light radiation. And these photons, with them, will carry energy, which will mean the energy within the object drops, and the energy outside or leaving the system is increasing. So, because of this red-hot radiation, we are able to lose energy even in a vacuum, where contact and convection are no longer available. It was a ruse to expose lurkers. Devilish. Oh, no, I'm not that clever. Seems like Twitch is having issues, even on desktop. Well, thank you for the notification, wingmates. I greatly appreciate that. It is not I who is the only one considering feeling that Twitch is a little bit sus right now. Okay, so. Oh, good. So, most everybody is having no problem. So, back to my original point. Radiators. Ships. So, imagine if you are in a place. So, wingmates, have you ever been in a room where it is very hot and no air is flowing? You are going to get very, very hot because your body is generating heat from metabolic processes, and sometimes there also may be light upon you, adding heat to your body. Yes, your car would be an example of that too. Your ground vehicle or your life support pod, something like that. Now, you would need to cool off somehow, especially if for example, let's just say the temperature outside is 100 degrees Fahrenheit, or what would that be in Celsius? My goodness, what is wrong with me? Let's just say something absurd like my goodness, what would that be? 37 Celsius? No, 37-ish Celsius or so. That is above body temperature for the typical isohuman. So with that in mind, imagine that you can no longer simply use the outside air to cool. You will Cryptid, welcome to the convoy. Let's just say mid humidity, so you do still have evaporative cooling. This is what a starship is experiencing when it is in vacuum. You essentially there's a failed analogy, but basically what I'm saying is that you require some means of getting rid of heat. For a human being in an atmosphere, that would be sweating. For a starship, that would be radiation, because it has no other means of venting heat through convection, because the atmosphere outside is hotter than the body. And in this case, a vacuum is in essence, it has no heat. It simply is, you're unable to transfer heat to it. So a ship is an isolated body which is going to generate heat by the engine running, because almost every single reactor inside of a ship is going to generate heat. You need to get rid of it somehow. And the solution would be to be running coolant from the reactor to radiators. And these radiators would glow, and they would use radiation to get rid of energy through the means of photons with some particular given wavelength, oftentimes infrared or visible light spectrum. I would actually have to show you a good example of an image here. Let me show you what a radiator running would look like. Let's see here. Radiator. Now, they do not have to glow red hot. For example, you can have a radiator that is simply a piece of metal with coolant running through it. But because infrared radiation happens very quickly, and it happens, in fact, to the whole ship, but it is better to have specific zones where you concentrate heat, because heat transfer is better where there is a bigger gradient. The bigger the gradient, the better you have it. So the hotter a radiator is, the more heat it will transfer. So you do not have to have a red hot radiator. Let's see here. Let's find a good image. One second, please, wingmates. I'm doing this a bit on the fly, so I do not have oh my goodness. What is with this spelling issue? There we go. All right, let's take a look at this. Oh, actually, Children of a Dead Earth, wingmates. Children of a Dead Earth. I've played this game many a time, and I will show you exactly where the radiators are on a vessel. Let's view this file. Let's drag and drop it here. Oh, did I? Okay. Perfect. There we go. So yes, the wing structures could be radiators. I doubt that the designer of the Jupiter Ascending, or what was that? Yeah, Jupiter Ascending ship actually thought of them as radiators. But this, wingmates, these are actual glowing combat radiators. So what is happening is, so in this vessel, we have a reactor located here. And this reactor is utilized for power, for the lasers, for the railguns, and for the other systems on the ship. Now, this reactor will melt if it is not cooled. And to cool in space, you require radiation. So what you likely end up having is a coolant loop. Let's do magenta for pink, and we'll only do one, which is being run through the radiator in some sort of pattern and going back. And perhaps you have multiple coolant loops like this for redundancy, so that you do not lose one if you take damage here. And then you end up having the cooled coolant, which we're going to do in green. Now, and cooled is a relative term, wingmates. Cooled is a relative term. And then this cooled coolant comes back down. It is still very, very hot, but it is cooler than it was before. And that is the entire point. That you are utilizing photons to essentially dump energy into the vacuum of space. And that is what this infrared radiation, and that is why starships have wings. And right here, wingmates, you see a non-combat radiator. So in essence, essentially, the temperature difference between a reactor, or between a heat source and its radiator, so I guess what I'm saying is this. Now imagine if we wanted to cool the crew compartment, which is located, let's just say here. So here we have the crew compartment. Its temperature is, let's just say, a nice comfortable 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Whereas the reactor is at 1300 degrees, I don't know, centigrade. There we go. We're mixing systems because I'm an iconoclast, wingmates. So, this is much bigger than this number right here. Now imagine if we take our hot coolant and we run it to a heat exchanger within the cabin. We will be having 1300 degrees C coolant running into a space that is normally supposed to be lukewarm and essentially acting as a radiator inside of the cabin, because it is very hard to pump heat out of this. You would need an incredible heat pump, basically an air conditioner that heats up ambient energy from the cabin to something that is remotely of this heat, of this enormous heat, so that, because heat, wingmates, heat flows from hot to cold. There is no way of circumventing it. Even heat pumps do not circumvent that heat flows from hot to cold. This is mandatory. And you would have to have such an impressive air conditioner that can take the energy of a room, compress it so much that it reaches more than this outlet heat temperature here, and then allow the hot air conditioner coolant to enter the incredibly hot reactor coolant to in essence even jam that heat back into it. So imagine you're also running coolant all the way back to these radiators. So wingmates, oh, Maruni is raiding. My goodness, wingmates. Welcome, Maru, welcome. How are you today? I apologize, I'm having a very intense moment talking about radiators and how I am absolutely flabbergasted that vessels don't have them. Welcome, raiders. Well, to anyone who doesn't know who I am Spacer Haywire. I'm an independent Starship operator of the courier torch ship, the Wishful Thinking. I take you know what? I don't think we're taking arms against this boarding party because I think this boarding party could learn something from all of our discussions about radiators and the like, wingmates. We are here to spread education to these wayward raiders. They will understand why we must have radiators, why we must have symmetry, wingmates. So no, I am... okay, Livshev. Okay, wingmates, if any of you want to use the guns, please feel free to utilize the guns. But don't come crying to me in case you get shot up by the incoming raiders. So let me do a fill here with another gray. So to everyone who does not know who I am, I do apologize. I am a little bit excited. Maruni, how are you doing today? What was your stream earlier? I have been a little bit busy going insane with this, so I have not been paying attention nearly as much. But how are you doing? I would love to know that. Okay. But yes, I am Spacer Haywire, and so what I do in my job is, in essence, oh, this is not a good color, is my ship is a torch ship. It is a vessel that can burn very hard and very fast at 50 gravities or so. And in essence, oh, that is not correct. Let me take my fill here again. I take packages. In essence, my ships, as far as I'm aware, are only able to safely jump within a specific distance of astrological bodies. So say, for example, we have a sun here, and here we have another sun. Now, around these orbital bodies, there will be a safe radius within which a jump drive can operate without causing incredible errors or not even operating correctly. Just dodge, bro. Just dodge. Let's see. Let's see here. Did you play Megamech on stream before? Am I misremembering? Bojangles. I have not played Megamech on stream before. That would probably be a Rippy. Let me see here. A Rippy. Why can I not spell? Eripie, a Rippy, there we go. Could someone please link her Twitch? I do not have a shout-out set up, but while I remember, we might as well link her. So my job, wingmates, is to, in essence, cover this distance right here. I take my ship and I burn as fast as possible to the edge where it is possible to use a wormhole drive to jump to the other side of a system, and then burn to the actual destination itself. All right, so I apologize. My brain is a little bit on the frass. Oh, thank you, Kimmy Spice. Much appreciated. A Rippie. There are many ways. Megamech, not Mega Man. Megamech, yes, Bojangles, correct. I play Megamech. I have played Megamech on this particular data transmission site. I apologize for my madness here, but thank you. Okay, let's see here. Where was I? I thought it was Eripie. I think that many say it. Eri playing Megamech. That would be interesting. Okay, so as I was saying, basically it is folly to have your primary reactor loop's coolant be sent all the way to your crew cabin to attempt to cool with it, which is why you have a secondary reactor loop, or a coolant loop, or multiple different coolant loops, which are utilized to essentially send coolant here, radiate it, and have it come back to the cabin slightly cooled. In essence, the temperature due to human bodies and equipment that is inside of the crew capsule would rise above 72 to say to something like 90. We are certainly hoping that in the radiator, the coolant would drop all the way down to something like 60 or so. and then it would come back into the cabin and allow it to be cooled for all of the heat generated within the crew cabin. Are you even an Alien fan of you? If you're not mispronouncing her name, she won't correct anymore. The girl keeps her mysteries. Yes, a Rippy will of course keep her mysteries. Oh my goodness. Yes. All right. So. But anyhow, welcome Raiders. I do apologize. I have been in a fugue because I am touching one of my favorite topics, which is Starship design and fiction. So now that we have discussed radiators, we can see that the Jupiter Rising ship, that's 32 degrees Celsius. Thank you, Chacapelto, for converting that. The superior system. However, as I am trying to replicate what a typical North American English-speaking streamer would utilize, I have, I suppose, internalized the obsolete system of Fahrenheit. So please forgive my my affinity for that, I suppose, somewhat wayward system. Here we go. So, Wingmates, what final score will I give the Jupiter Rising ship? I am feeling very brutal, Wingmates. I'm gonna give this a score of I don't care. This design is just... It has interesting elements to it, but it is overwrought. There are too many greebles, there's too much maintenance, there are too many ports. It is great artistically, but I would not want to fly this. I'm putting this one in the bin. I'm gonna even hide that layer. I don't want to see it anymore. It's a beautiful ship, but I'm not gonna bother salvaging in it because we have much better designs to salvage. And to those who submit ships who get them binned, please don't feel bad. It is about my practicality, not about my aesthetics, because I thought that was a beautiful ship. I simply didn't want to fly it, is the main thing. Hartley, welcome to the convoy. George Hall is shook. Yes, 2 out of 10 for exposed cargo and all. It's not a 0, but it's definitely down there, and it would take a lot of work for me to feel confident in flying that vessel, Wingmates. All right, let's move on to something. Well, Raiders. Since I do not know how many of you have had an opportunity to actually submit vessels, do any of you have a ship that you would like torn down and scrutinized? And yes, Tamara, I'm of that mind too. I do like my fantasy weapons and vehicles practical indeed. I have issues operating with certain kinds of designs. Not because they are ugly, or not because I don't think they are beautiful, but because something begins to itch within myself. Omega class destroyer, or the Defiant. Okay, well, let's get a few more. And welcome, Cryptid and Vengeful. Not a raider, but thoughts on the SSV Normandy. Normandy is a very milquetoast design in the sense that it's a classic shuttle design with some added on engines. And I think I criticized shuttle designs in general when they are taken without lampshade, without any modification. However, I will explain to you how I do like my shuttle-esque designs. Let's see here. So we have Omega, Defiant, Victory, Gundam, Squid class. Let's see, Attenborough, you've been here for a little while, so you're not a raider. And I'm giving the raiders an opportunity to contribute. But yes, that it would be interesting to see. Would you care to link the Squid class, Attenborough? I will pop that open in another tab for future reference sake. Paranelsa, welcome back. Oh, no worries, Attenborough. I am no issues there. It's just I wanted to give the raiders a chance. All right, let's take a look here. Okay, so just as a side note, here is what I feel about shuttles. Let me go back to black here. So shuttle designs, like the Normandy, are something that looks like a conventional aircraft with, fins, some kind of engines, and stuff like that. And they have decks going like this, generally speaking. The horizontal deck sin. Sin. This is a sin. We do not want our crew being rocketed back into the bulkhead the moment the drives go prrrr. But... Oh. I'm sorry, Cryptid. I am having trouble. But, I have wanted to do the Omega. Let's see, so... Who was our raider? Vengeful, if you are a raider, let's do the Defiant. Actually, the Defiant sort of fits into this, but we can do the Defiant a little bit more critically. Let's see. I'm glad. I see that you are having some issues joining streams sometimes. Well, I had my own issues due to the distance I was away from the jump net in the Void March. I did not enjoy those contracts, wingmates, but it was definitely a learning experience. So what I am okay with wingmates is if one, you can rotate the primary drive and burn it downwards, or if you have a secondary drive at the bottom of the hull that will be able to burn downwards, thus changing the thrust axis from horizontal once the vessel has taken off in atmo, where there would be gravity that would actually be greater than the backwards force. And instead, the craft would travel upwards. So if we would like to imagine this particular shuttlecraft, let's draw ourselves a little shuttlecraft here. It would in essence be burning like this. And since we have a conical exhaust, vaguely like this, it would look something like this. The craft would travel upwards. So it would not look very sane, but at the very least the decks would be arranged correctly. And at the same time, when you're landing in atmo with your shuttlecraft, you would be able to very conventionally utilize the craft. Because can you imagine if your decks were like this? All of your cargo would want to fall down. But this is primarily a design I see utilized for craft that travel both in orbit and make landings. And thank you for the clip, Lion Chops. Drives go... Because indeed they do. Okay, let's see. We'll go for probably another 40 more minutes, wingmates. Makoto Kokoro, welcome to the convoy. Yes, like a VTOL system, exactly. And let me show you a design which I love from the BattleTech universe. The Drost drop shuttle. 1 second, please, wingmates. So this is one of my favorite dropship designs. Drost BattleTech. Let's see here. It is an Age of War design. The Drost 2A is an Age of War. Let me show you here, wingmates. There it is, the Drost. There we go. So as you can see, this one has gimbaling power plants. So it is like it could take off vertically if it wanted to, but it could also fly horizontally to utilize its aerodynamic properties to save on propellant. And it is a chunky boy. That is one of the many issues with So BattleTech dropships are typically considered flying bricks. Here we go. In terms of what, Koopa? But yes, as you can see, the Drost also has this interesting property of the cannons on it. The defensive cannons being able to very vertically arrange, or being able to align very vertically, so that it is able to attack in both its horizontal flight direction and its this is simply the exhaust. It's a black and white image, but it does look a little bit like it's walking on stilts. It's a stilt walking dropship. But yes, this is a flying brick that uses more thrust than aerodynamics to land. But this is one kind of design that I really do enjoy. Although I do question where the actual reaction mass is. But of course, BattleTech vessels as a whole have such absurd exhaust velocities apparently, that they are able to, on a mass ratio of anything from 100 to 1 relative to the ship mass, have multiple days of thrust, have multiple months of thrust. I'd have to do the back of the envelope math there to realize what kind of exhaust velocity they think they're running there. 8 leopards, 8 shuttles, 8 aerotech. Spheroids all a man needs. Praise Kerensky. Yes, Gorian, that is the right attitude. Spheroids, spheroids, spheroids. And wingmates, let me show you what a spheroid dropship is. It is an egg. It is an egg here. Let me give you the Overlord. Overlord. Let's see here. What's a better image of the Overlord? Here it is. Here's a perfect image of the Overlord dropship. Come hither. There we go. That is an Overlord dropship. It is an egg with guns on it, but its decks are stacked the right way. This is probably one of the closest sci-fi dropships you will find that has proper deck arrangement, proper gun arrangement, etc., etc. Union class is a classic, but I just happen to think of Overlord. I guess if it's functional. Eggs, bread for war. Yes, so absurd I'm offended. But yes, this is the classic spheroid dropship in BattleTech. And this is what many dropships look like that I haven't been involved with. Because you have an aerodynamic form for atmosphere re-entry, but at the same time, you also have the axial thrust. And as you can see here, you are actually able to use these quadruple engines for both gimbaling and for rotating the actual form of the dropship around its central thrust axis, which is something a single engine cannot do. And otherwise, you would require reaction wheels and etc. What came first, the mech or the egg? The dedicated mech it came after the first dedicated dropship, if I recall correctly. Yes, it did. Urkeline, welcome to the convoy. If I haven't said hello already, I'm losing my mind a little bit here. But yes, this egg came before the mech. There were troop carrier and vehicle carrier dropships in the BattleTech universe before the first true designated mech carrier dropship was created, I believe, by the Curetans, which is the Space Japan faction of BattleTech, if I recall correctly. I was making a terrible joke, to be honest, but good to know. Oh, I sometimes do not recognize jokes, Hartley, and I do apologize. Of course, Lion Chops. Please, wingmates, if you ever need breaks, take your breaks. Okay, but yes, so we do not want sin. We are without sin, and we have either gimbaling drives, or we have for ourselves a belly drive for our starships. So, who was it who mentioned the Normandy? The SS is it the SSC Normandy? I can never remember the acronym for whatever reason. But the Normandy suffers from this. Tyler, thank you. So basically, if we take the Normandy, which looks something like this, with its iconic quadruple drives, which I have no issue with, and then we have the drives rotate down, so they start looking like this, I would have no issue, especially if the Normandy was meant to be an atmospheric craft. However, if I recall correctly, the Normandy is not an atmospheric craft. It is simply a ship shaped like a plane. So in that sense, I don't see the point in keeping the aesthetics. Now, the wings might be good as radiators for heat, but to be honest, considering the heat output of the Normandy, I would expect way more radiators like this. So if I was to salvage the Normandy, here's what I would do, wingmates. Let me erase my madness here. So here's how I would salvage the Normandy. I would take her, and I would add another paint layer, and I would do her long svelte hull with all of the attendant bits here, and I would give her quadruple symmetry or triple symmetry. So here are her iconic wings, but now symmetrized, and on each of them I would give her a drive. I kind of don't like this because it does put the source of radiation closer to the crew, but it does keep some of the iconic design nature, and it gives her some radiators. So what I would also do is I would have these red hot, or at least parts of the surfaces red hot. And there we go. And then I would also write Normandy sideways, because she would be a tail sitter. Norm... And yeah, I would wrap around like that. And I forget what other features the Normandy has that are unique. She does have a little button tail, I think, if I recall correctly. And then, of course, she wouldn't have the weird glowing dots that represent engines. She would have big old plumes here. Now, wingmates, I would like to explain why I draw plumes like this. Claudia! Welcome to the convoy! Thank you. Welcome, raiders. They're raiding us! They're boarding us! Wingmates, prepare the defensive cannons. I will draw some more munitions on the Normandy to help you with this, wingmates. Okay, incoming on a vector. Here we have the vampire ship. It's shaped like a pair of fangs, linked together with a bridge, but it has two axes, so there is a balance here. All right, here we go. Auto cannons. Dun 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 dun. All right, launching vertical launch tubes here. Actually, so the vertical launch tubes would probably be something like we pop out the missile, and then we have it spin this way and do a hard burn towards the enemy ship. Oh no, Koopa, we are not stunning. We are using lethal weaponry here. No stunning here. Pew pew pew. And of course, wingmates, our bridge would, unlike in the normal Normandy, would be located somewhere within the heart of the vessel, but a significant distance away from the propellant tanks and the reaction. But welcome, welcome, Claudia. How was your stream today? How was your stream? So in the meantime, wingmates. So let's just say we have reaction mass coming out of an engine. So here we have a drive cone here. How did they board? Why are our shields not? But Tyler, there are no shields. What are shields? Where we were pirates. It was good. Oh, you were pirates. What was that? Which game was that? Or were you pretending to just be pirates and just chatting? General quarters, man your battle stations, raider incoming. Sea of Thieves. Ah, excellent, excellent. Very nice. How much booty did you plunder, Claudia? How much booty? Apologies, wingmates, I have to quench my thirst. All of this talking has made me very excited. Let's see here. So, wingmates, imagine you... Oh, you freed Jack Sparrow. Excellent. Although I don't think I want to encounter the man, so please put him back where you found him, Claudia. Please put him back. So, wingmates, imagine that you are a lowly particle leaving with an exhaust velocity. So here you are in the combustion chamber of a rocket. Let's just go with a conventional rocket because I can actually pull up the Apollo exhaust plume here. Let me see if I can find the Apollo exhaust plume. So Apollo exhaust plume. Because there was a why is it? No. Apollo exhaust plume. I must demonstrate this, wingmates. This is an issue that bothers me. Oh, so very much. Let's see. I need it in lunar. I know I don't need impingement. I need the actual plume from Apollo 10, was it? Might have been Apollo 10. Let's see here. Oh, this is going to bother me. This is going to bother me oh so very much. I want to show a historical example. Apollo 10. I'm not going to go through all the Apollos, but it was not 11 if I recall. That is better, but not good. Okay, well, here's what I will say. Boarding ship, boarding ship. I am but a lonely particle. We are nothing but lonely particles in an angry universe, wingmates. So, here we have a lowly particle in pink. Why is that gray? Pink, there we go. So the particle, because of the pressure in the combustion chamber, it is being forced out of this exhaust cone. Now, as a particle, if we zoom in, you're going to have particle neighbors. Particle neighbors in a gas will never be still, and we're assuming the exhaust is a gas. Which means that you will likely collide with each other and develop odd velocities, not only the velocity that is being pushed out of the combustion chamber, where the bifuel rocket is actually creating the pressure, but we are also basically having random motion. Now, in a vacuum, so in an atmosphere, here's what happens. We have atmospheric pressure. Basically, here, the exhaust pressure is the highest, but the constant atmospheric pressure will create the classic rocket plume that you see during a launch. You get this nice round plume. But in a vacuum, which is our pink here, you have no atmospheric pressure. So the particle, once it leaves the cone here, the exhaust cone, it will have a velocity that goes this way. And it's a vacuum. So it will just simply want to leave. It will forever have that velocity, while simultaneously also traveling backwards. So in essence, what you end up having is a cone. A straight, simple cone without any compression. Because you will, of course, have much more visible density here, and it will peter off here because the gas will become rarefied. Excuse me, wingwits, because we are looking at the inverse cube law here. As the well, not inverse cube, but we are looking at essentially as the volume of any given slice of gas goes this direction, the radius of the slice increases. So it's not cubed. I apologize. Well, either way, it's squared. But this is why the density drops off exponentially. Or it will drop off exponentially because if we are at distance, so let's just say here is our origin, and this is distance 1. So r squared, or let's just say this is 1 right here, and this is 2. Here we will have a surface area of 1 squared, whereas here will be 2 squared, which is equal to 4. So 1 versus 4 over a short distance will mean that we will have an exponential drop-off in gas density. So the plume will rarefy in this direction, but it will be a cone nonetheless. So out of the exhaust, it will look something like this. So we have a dense, 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 and then it will rarefy out here, eventually becoming invisible to the naked eye. Someday I'll escape this buffering hell. Oh, I'm sorry, Hartley. I do apologize that we are having issues with some buffering. Twitch apparently has been having some issues with its transmissions. So, Wingmates, if you have any questions, please, please, please feel free to let me know. I am simply going on a madman tangent here. And let me see if I can find for you that image of Apollo 10, was it? And its exhaust plume? Let's see. Or Apollo 9. Or Apollo by the moon plume. Ugh. Let's see if I can find it. Moon rocket plume. This will bother me, Wingmates. This will bother me eternally. Oh, Ray. Oh, you can't even make clips tonight. That is very unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. See, or was it Apollo 12 that had the famous photo of it? This'll have to do for now. Apologies, Wingmates. Okay, here we go. This will have to do. But this generally demonstrates the effect that I'm trying to tell you. So if we take a look at this high atmosphere, almost vacuum, separation of a Saturn V, as you can see, there is just a kiss. Just a little bit of the atmospheric pressure pluming it, making have that iconic shape. But at the same time, we are almost getting a cone that we would have in vacuum. But if I find a better photo in time, I will let you know. Lion Chops, thank you for coming back. We will probably actually not be doing this for much longer either, as I am running low on energy myself. All right, let's do, I think, one more vessel. So I believe it was from a raider that we had a suggestion of the Deep Space Nine's Defiant class. So let's see here, DS9 Defiant. Actually, we could do this one very quickly, and we can move on to something a little bit odder. Let's take a look at the Defiant here. Oh, perfect. Here we go. Oh my, that is not what I wanted. Let's take a look. Do that. And here we go. Did it not work? Fascinating, fascinating. Okay, let's add another layer. And we will add... Well, that won't do. Apologies, Wingmates. 1 second, please. This simply does not wish to interact with me. Okay, here we go. Let's try something a little different here. Where's a good image of the Defiant that isn't failing to load correctly? Actually, the 3 view was the best. So I'm actually going to save it. Okay, let's save that. Random name. Okay. What about Neil Tyson deGrasse spaceship? Was that thing even remotely possible? Chacapelto. Oh, Chacapleto. I'm so sorry. I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Okay. Chacapleto, would you mind linking that particular ship? I'm actually not familiar with it. I could take a look at it. In the meantime, I will take a look at the Defiant. Insert as new layer. There we go. That is way too big. We're going to have to make that a lot smaller. Let me take the scale tool here. Lock our ratio. Give it a nice... Oh, that's not what I wanted. That's okay. I'm going to delete that, and we're going to try again. We're going to insert this as a reference image, because why not? Okay, so we can just talk about this one. The Defiant... No, I don't like that. Let's go for a cross-section of the Defiant. We'll have a reference image of the Defiant, and we'll have a cross-section of the Defiant. Okay, here, I found a cross-section. There we go. All right, there we go. Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much for that ship. Let me take a look at that real quick, if that is even feasible. What it... Oh, I think I remember seeing this somewhere. What is that? What is that? What? Okay, the decks are vertical, but it's reactionless. I think that is mainly a design that is what I would describe as... it's a placeholder for the viewer. It is not meant to actually... It has some aspects that could be reusable, but only in form. In actuality, I don't even know where I'd begin with that. It's a concoction. Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Okay, so here is the Defiant in a 3 view in its orthographics. So the Defiant is a very small, compact, and yet heavily armed warship, which essentially strips away the Starfleet philosophy of having women and children on warships for whatever reason, and has nothing but weapons and small, cramped living quarters. So the Defiant, I don't know where to begin with it. One, it suffers from the airplane design philosophy. It's a boat in space rather than having vertical decks. We could probably salvage it a little bit, but I would have to do some things. So one of the things that they try to keep with a lot of the Star Trek ships is that they try to keep a saucer shape, and that is very difficult to utilize in a stack design, especially because it is difficult to support that. And once again, my simulation hardware is having a problem. So in the meantime, let's see here. Let's take a look at the cross section of it. One of the other crazy issues I find with the Defiant is there is almost no propellant. I don't understand what the reaction mass is. I genuinely don't. Here we have I believe the warp coils, which have the embedded torpedo launchers in them. Here we have the impulse drives with very teeny tiny tanks of whatever propellant they are utilizing. Here we have the living quarters with what appears to be minimal radiation shielding. They are arranged funny. Now the bridge is buried. That is good. The bridge is buried, and that is something I will give to the Defiant. They actually use some warship philosophies. Lion Chops, thank you for being with the convoy. I hope that you rest well. Okay, so how do we fix the Defiant, wingmates? I don't know. We are not Bob the Builder. It is not our job to fix what is eternally broken. We cannot fix original sin, but we will try. We will try. Let's see. Have I heard of a game called Space Haven? I think I have. Just blow it up. But we're not gonna bin the design completely. We're gonna at least have some ideas on how we can fix the Defiant. So let me add another paint layer here. I'm gonna fill with our classic gray or dark background. Let's grab our brush, and let's grab our brush. There we go. Good, that works. Oops. To do that, she meant to undo that and add another layer. Okay. You guys probably are... Blue Cornflower, welcome to the convoy. You guys probably already know. I said, but the reason the Star Trek ships are disc-like is they can fit better on a TV screen. The TV screens of the time. That definitely makes sense, Cornflower. Thank you for being with the convoy, Melchior. I appreciate your presence greatly. Rest well. This is an interesting GIF. I really enjoy that animated emoticon. Okay, so how do we save the Defiant? So the Defiant's defining features are its nacelles, its angular shape here, and its pointy saucer bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a donut. So here is the saucer that is built into the Defiant. I'm going to give it a pointy nose. There we go. And that is sort of the pointy nose that it's supposed to have. Now, this donut looks weird because I can't get the shading right. But it would have this nice, gentle donut curve around it. Let's see here. I would probably give it angular nacelles on the side to represent its engines. And maybe I would do at least bilateral symmetry, if not quad symmetry. But let's keep the bilateral symmetry in this situation. And my perspective is way off. I need to undo all of that, actually. Let's do a less skewy perspective. Let me delete all of that here, wingmates. So let me draw its center axis here. So that's the center axis of the Defiant. Here is our donut axis, and we're going to do it like this. So here is our donut. So that is going to be our center hull, our big donut shape. There we go. Then we are going to have that little nose bridge. We're going to round it off, though. We're going to turn it into a conical tapered bridge, or a conical, it's not a bridge, it's like a tapered nose cone thing. Let's see here. And we're going to give it... So one of the things that is interesting about the Defiant is it has this nice tapered section that then goes to the engines, which we covered up, but there were about 4 engines. So we'll make it actually circular. There we go. Make it circular like that. And then we'll have the little engines poking through. Now, for radiators, I don't think we can have... to keep the Defiant look, we'll have to have them somewhere else. It kind of looks like a sombrero indeed. And so the back view for this would probably be something like this. Maybe something like that, maybe with 4 engines. I forget how it is. But it does look a little bit like a space sombrero right now because I can't do the little donut shape very well. Let's see if we can give that a little bit more roundness here. But that's the saucer section. And now let's give it its weapon nacelles. So its weapon nacelles would be arranged something like this. Yes, something like that. And they would be hanging off the edge to continue giving the Defiant its defining characteristic. Now this is a little weak, but I'm okay with that because we are trying to keep the design conceits here. But at the same time, I don't like this. Because the Defiant is meant to be chunky. The Defiant is a chunky ship, so we will actually let me undo some of that. We will actually give her these like batwing pieces of hull, and this way we could actually give her quadruple symmetry, and have another nacelle that essentially lives right here. So in essence, we've taken the Defiant and we've done a rotation around it. And we've lost a lot of what the Defiant was. But let's see, we would have radiators here. So radiators would be on the side of where the warp nacelles are previously. So here's the radiators on all 4 of the warp nacelles. To give it that characteristic red glow, it's just that the red glow would represent something entirely different. And for the blue bits, we could actually just have nav lights here. Or something like that on the hull. Yeah, there we go. We just have blue markings on the hull. And there we have the exhaust plume. And since it's probably a very high velocity exhaust, the plume will be tighter. Because essentially, when it's exiting a nozzle, if we have slow exhaust like this, it will kind of have this slow movement, or it will move outwards pretty fast. Because it is moving to the right very slowly, thus leading to a steeper angle. However, on the other hand, if we have an exhaust where the particles are moving very fast, but also having this velocity here, we're going to have a much steeper exhaust plume cone. And this is relative to exhaust velocity, VE. So as you can see, here's our slow blue exhaust, here's our fast red exhaust. And since the Defiant is a very high-tech starship, it would likely have very fast exhaust, so potentially it would even be something even tighter like this. There we go. That's a more Defiant design for sure. Yes, it is a little bit Defiant in some sense, I would say. And I suppose this time the decks would actually be arranged as we want them. We could have a habitation deck, and then we could have a proper combat bridge deck right in the middle here. And all of the weapons systems could be mounted in the nose for the various torpedoes and the like. I don't like that as much, but we are trying to keep some of the Defiance characteristics. All right, wingmates, so that is the design of the Defiant. Let's check our time here. I think we can do one more vessel that is easy. Let's see here. What's a nice easy vessel that we can analyze? Or that we can at least throw away very quickly. Let's see here. Borg cube? Chakapleto. I actually have very little issue with the Borg cube to some extent if it flew differently. So if we look at the Borg cube, and once again I have issues with this, I guess since we're on this topic of Star Wars, we can just talk a little bit about the Borg cube. Let's see here. Come here. Come here. Please activate. I would greatly appreciate that. There we go. So, I guess I'll hide this layer. The Borg cube, if we take a look at it, that is not a cube, but that's okay. It has stacked deck design with a bunch of green gobbledygook all over it. That's okay. The main issue I have with the Borg cube is that it travels this way. So one, it's a boat, and two, reaction. It's reactionless, RXN-less. Now give the Borg cube some heavy drives here. So let's just say, let's give it like 3 drives or something. So give the Borg cube some drives. Okay, let's make this 3-dimensional for fun's sake. So here's our Borg cube. We'll keep it a cube just for cube's sake. But give it some drives. So we'll give it like 5 drives for whatever reason. So it has better ability to twist. The Borg will have green exhaust because they're fun. So here they go. Borg exhaust. There we go. All right. And we will have... So our decks are arranged correctly now, which is this proper skyscraper plan. So this is literally going to be an office building with weapons on it. One of the things about almost all of these ship layouts is the issue that they don't make accommodations for things like reaction mass tanks. You need to have places for reaction mass. You need to have places for reactors. You need to have places for weapon power conduits. You need to even have understanding of how your weapons... You need cooling. So with a Borg cube, what I would do is to keep the cube shape, I would put radiator panels on the side. So in this case, we would simply have the lower halves of the Borg cube sides glow red. So it would be this very angry brick flying towards you, shooting particle beams at you facing forward and ripping your vessel apart in this way, with glowing red sides and this angry exhaust behind it. Now the color of the exhaust would depend on its temperature and the particular gas being utilized, but you can almost always assume it is going to be white hot. The Borg from Star Trek fly? Will a giant cube? Indeed they do. So this is our Borg cube redesign, wingmates. Okay. Oh, and let's see here. Okay, let's take a look at our time. We are starting to run a little bit low on time, I think. So I think we will begin wrapping up here. Okay, wingmates, so I think that many of you have heard my madness for enough time. I suppose I would like to ask you, are there any questions that you have had about some of my judgments that I've made in regards to vessels, or why I think certain things are important? Because in my madness, I may have missed things. ME, welcome to the convoy, and we are going to start wrapping up now. But yes, I'm more than willing to explain any lingering questions that you may have in this, I suppose, wrap-up Q&A session. And we will be continuing this segment, wingmates, because I have a lot more to say about a lot more iconic designs, including the Firefly, which I'm going to rip asunder, because it makes no sense. I'm glad you enjoyed the presentation. Are turrets less necessary if engagement ranges get long? Okay. One last question, I suppose. Oh, no worries. Don't wingmates. Never think of yourself as unqualified because any question is a valid question. Because even I get stumped on the simplest things that I have taken for granted with a lot of these things. Make sure to put your minder to put feed in the tank. Don't worry, I will have my system inject into my life support system will inject plenty of feed into my stomach. My nutrient solution. Okay, one last thing that I will explain because Attenborough did ask this. So engagement ranges, long versus short. So let's just say we have ships that are engaging very closely together. They are literally a couple 100 meters apart. So this is actually a very complicated question. In terms of turrets versus no turrets. One thing this very heavily depends on is how quickly you can rotate your ship. If you can rotate your vessel so quickly, due to the fact that you have either an incredibly powerful drive, which you are able to gimbal very aggressively and impart a massive moment of rotation on your vessel to bring it into line of fire with whatever target you have lined up, you need turrets less. This factor is also dependent, Attenborough, as you pointed out, on distance. If you are able to get proper arc second travel for a distance, let's see, a question for another time perhaps, but have you wondered, do you have any sci-fi codes of military justice? It's something I've been thinking about recently and would be interested to read about. I could at some point, Ray, read up on the Far Sons Coalition Code of Justice for I guess for military courts, and let you know a little bit about that. I may do a disposition on that rather than a stream, as I think it would be a much better format. So I may do a podcast on that. Little ass, welcome to the convoy. Good to see you here. We are actually wrapping up right now, and I have one last question from Attenborough that I am currently answering. Urkley, what is the best design for a spaceship combat? Is it cube or a sphere? Cube is easier to build. Spheres have the least. So the area of a sphere, if I recall correctly, or the surface area of a sphere, is going to be 4 pi r squared. No, 4/3. Oh my, how am I forgetting this? Whereas the volume of a sphere, no, the volume of a sphere is madness. Okay, but yes, basically the surface area to volume ratio of a sphere is the best. Or any curves, the more curves you have, the better your ratio, because you need less wrapping, and that way you're able to save on mass. You need to save on mass, and you're also able to save because every bit that you armor or every bit of skin that you have is different. And also arches are a strong design. However, this is difficult to build, and it adds to the construction cost. I'm glad that you would like that sort of a podcast, Ray. I'll put that on my list of things to do it. Oh, hell yeah, arrest me for violating the Far Sons Coalition Code of Justice. A little less, I haven't seen any crimes yet, but I see that you are a glutton for punishment, so I will look into it. To the brig with you, Snake. There are women in heels in the brig, so don't worry about it too much. Oh my goodness. Heels are not something you want to wear on an accelerating starship. But yes, so to Attenborough's question. So let's talk about arcs. So this is an arc distance. It is ever so many degrees or minutes of angle. So minutes of angle. There are. Let's talk about mils. So a mil is a unit of measurement utilized in militaries very often for range finding and the like. So the mil, typically there are 6,000 military angular mils within one complete circle, or there are 64. There are actually 2 pi times 1,000 mils, mathematical mils within a complete circle. That is 360 degrees. 360 degrees is equal to 2 pi times 1,000 mils. And that is just, a pi is an irrational number, so this is a nonsense thing, but it is simply a convention right here. So mils can actually be used for ranging. Let me show you how you do this. So let's just say we have a target here, a human being. A human being. And we have determined, using our ranging implement, here's a quick trick, wingmates. Here's a quick trick. So here is the average. This only applies to the typical male recruit's hand in the military. So here's the hand of a male recruit. If we look at the pointer finger, that is 30 mils wide if held at a range of... So here's a human being, here's their shoulder, here's the arm, and here's the finger fully extended with the eyeball, and it's at this distance. So if you hold up your finger at this distance, and you lay it over a target, like a house, for example, this is 30 mils. Two fingers together is going to be 30... Oh, is it 30, 70? 30, 70. Okay, and then three fingers together is 100. Four fingers together is 125. A closed fist. A closed fist is 125. Was it 180, I think? Yeah, I think it's 180. And then a broad palm extended all the way is going to be 300 mils. Tyler, you're heading out. Have an excellent rest. Thank you for being with the convoy for as long as you could. So basically, you would be able to utilize your hand at arm's length away from you as a mil indicator. So right now, wingmates, if you are in the position to do so, feel free to extend some of your fingers, and you can lay them over an object. Like, for example, in my simulated environment, I have a lampshade, which is approximately 4 fingers wide when I extend my hand at the bases of my fingertips. So that is about 125 mils. So here's a quick little trick. No, little less. We'll have to see. Little less. We are actually able to do this for you, but basically for little less, what would happen is we would need to take little s and put him in this position. So here's little s with his position, with his wonderful eye, and we would need to measure this distance, and we would need to figure out what angular mil what subtension of angular mils this is for him. This is something we can calculate, but my brain is currently fried. But we can use little s's tail. In fact, we can use mid-tail tip, and we can use full tail width as 2 separate measurements for different accuracies. And then little s could lay it over the heel of a woman, or whatever he prefers, or a landmine, since I know little s enjoys some landmines, to determine how far from his target he is. So yeah, so let's see. So if this heel, if, for example, little s's tail subtends 30 angular mils, we can see that this heel is actually 60 angular mils. Now, so basically, we would need to know the size of the target in millimeters. Could some female viewers let me know how long the typical female heel is lengthwise? I'm actually not very certain about that. In terms of centimeters, if you don't mind. Would that be approximately 20 centimeters? Let's just go with 20 centimeters here. 20 centimeters, why not? So we need 20 centimeters is actually equal to how many millimeters? We need this in millimeters. 200. I might be losing my mind here. So that's centa is hundreds, milli is thousands. So this is 200 millimeters. And we will now divide this distance by this, and we'll get a size in meters. Let me check that I'm doing the formula right. So this will give us roughly 3.3 meters away. So little s is 3.3 meters away from this woman's shoe. So he would have to slither a certain distance to arrive there. Let me see here. Let me check if I'm doing my ranging formula correctly. I don't want to give you wingmates anything incorrect. Attenborough, I'll have to answer your question another time when my brain is not melting. I apologize, but please keep that question in mind. Let's see here. So, mills, ranging. Okay, let's see here. Da-da-da-da-da. Come on, come on. There we go. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. Okay. Inches, MOA, centimeters, 10. Yes. Okay, so target size in millimeters divided by target size in mil is the range in meters. So yes, little s is approximately 3.3 meters away from this heel. Okay. Thank you, Attenborough. Thank you for keeping that in mind. Okay, so anyways, wingmates, basically, what you want to keep in mind is target size in millimeters divided by target size in mils, and you can use your hands for the mils, is going to equal to the distance in meters. So if you, for example, can estimate that a car is for example, 1.5 meters wide at a distance, a ground car, and you place your hand over it, and the car is covered in one finger. If you are, of course, someone with 30 mil wide fingers when they are at a particular distance, 1.5 meters is 1,500 millimeters, divided by knowing that the target is 30 wide. So can't remove the zeros here. So we know that that car is 50 meters away. So that is how you can use this particular little bit of information. And let me see if I can find you a link for hand size mils here. Hand size in mils. Because this might actually come in handy if someone's like, hey, I do wonder how big something is. And you can be a smart wingmate and throw out to them a rough estimate. Now, for someone who does not have a big hand, you may have to make adjustments. And of course, there should be. I will have to figure out the particular formulation for that. But oops, let's see here. Let's see if we can get that. There you go, wingmates. I hope that will help you. Okay, I've taken too long, but I hope that was interesting to you, wingmates. That there is a very practical thing that you can do utilizing not but your fingers. And perhaps I will actually post something about this a little bit later. All right, wingmates, let's prepare for a raid. Let us see who is active on our IFF transponder list, because my current neural connection is beginning to fade. Let's see who is available for a raid. We have Odette is streaming. Meat is streaming. Let's see, we got Calico. Oh my, there's quite a few individuals running right now. I suppose it does depend on what one and the Niwas are streaming. Who is streaming today, I wonder? Emiko, Erica, or Dippy? Although Dippy has his own channel. I'm glad that you enjoyed the talk. Thank you very much. Let's see here. Inferno Chim is streaming Strive. Calavera, could you please link Inferno Chim? I've not heard. I've not been keeping up, essentially. A little less wants egg. TK, yes, first time to the end, and I think I will actually be ending significantly earlier if I can, as I am hitting a point where I must adjust my timing somewhat, wingmates. So I do apologize for that. In the future, I may start at 7 in Pacific. I see, Inferno Chim. Okay. So we got Guilty Gear Strive. I guess this is almost more of a topical thing. Wingmates, what are you more interested in? Of the choices we have are, let's see, Odette with Noita. Let's see, Egg is here with Left 4 Dead 2. We have Meat with Chicory. I have never played Chicory. Chicory, A Colorful Tale. Let's see, we have... Let's see, Calico is playing Lisa right now. Oh no, the Lisa, the painful. Oh no. At least I would imagine that is that particular Lisa. Let's see. And if there are any other suggestions, please let me know. And we also have Inferno Chim playing Guilty Gear. Let's see. Oh, thank you everyone for the thanks. And it is also good to be back. I do not know how often I'll be able to stream at the time, but we hopefully it'll be more often. Oh yes, allow me to transition back to the station, wingmates. I apologize. You have been watching my mad scribbles for far too long. 1 second, please, wingmates. Ah, here we are. Excellent, excellent. And yes, it is good to see you again, wingmates. Okay, so I am completely lost. I do not know where to send our raiders here. Wingmates, I would definitely appreciate your input if you have any statements. Let's see. Egg is getting killed by zombies. Oh no, oh my goodness. Let's see. Adet is going ham on Noita, as they say on Terra. You have a heart, don't you, Captain? Follow it. You see, Calavera, I do have the emotional heart. I'm also an individual who has analysis paralysis. Let's put it that way. Every time that I'm faced with a choice, especially one that has, I suppose, emotional implications, it is difficult. Odette has just escaped prison. Oh yes, she is no longer in prison. I see, yeah. Let's see. I guess we'll decide between, let's see here. Oh no, oh no. Use the dicer coin. Yes, this is a random number generator. Okay, wingmates, if you'll please allow me, I will go to the random number chooser. Random chooser. No longer will I allow my own mind to haunt me. Yes. Okay, 1 second, please, wingmates. I will get this sorted out. Okay, here we have Odette. We have meat. We have the 1 second, please, wingmates. Come here. Inferno. We have Inferno. Okay, we're gonna put down egg in there. We're gonna put down who else? We'll put down the Niwas, I suppose. Okay, let's choose. All right, Odette it is, wingmates. We're going to raid Odette. So, wingmates, I will give you a raid message shortly. And here we are. Prepare to roll and prepare for an attack. Make sure you prepare your munitions, your Kasaba howitzers, and the like. Hypertalk is go, indeed, Gorian. All right, everybody. Here's the raid command. So, I do not know when next I will stream, wingmates, but hopefully it is sooner than later. And I look forward to seeing you again. Prepare for jump. Wingmates, make sure that you keep your propellant tanks topped off, that your jump calculations are accurate, and that you always fly safe. Now, allow me to provide you with the raid message, and we will continue on with our endeavor. And thank you all so very much for attending and for listening to my madness, and I hope to get to more ships another time. I absolutely look forward to it. And I may actually have more formulas available to show you the basic mathematical functions that make me go a little bit insane. Thank you, everyone. All right, let's begin the raid. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Commencing raid.